250 million years ago, Earth was on the brink of silence. Across barren plains and lifeless seas, silence swept through the air like an invisible fog. The world had just endured the most devastating mass extinction in its 4-billion-year history. Over 90% of all marine species were gone. 70% of life on land had vanished. Trees fell and didn't grow back. Reefs collapsed. Insect populations plummeted. Ecosystems shattered, as if burned from the inside out. And for a brief and haunting moment in geological time, life itself stood at the edge of disappearance. This cataclysm, known as the Permian extinction, was triggered by immense volcanic activity in a region now known as Siberia. Basalt floods poured from the Earth's crust in waves, coating millions of square kilometers in molten rock. The atmosphere thickened with carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide, gases that changed everything. Global temperatures spiked, oceans acidified, stagnant waters turned anoxic, suffocating marine life from the bottom up. The skies dimmed under ash and smoke, and the sun, once a giver of life, became a dull reminder of the death below. What followed was a silencier pause in the orchestra of evolution. For hundreds of thousands of years, life struggled to find its voice again. Deserts stretched across entire continents. Forests, once lush and expansive, shrank to fragmented pockets of green. Food chains collapsed. Scavengers walked over the bones of those who came before. Survival no longer belonged to the strongest, nor to the most intelligent, but to the most adaptable. In this world of shadows, one lineage began to stir. The archosaurs. Barely distinguishable at first, these creatures shared a common ancestry with earlier reptiles, but had evolved differently. They stood more upright. Their limbs were positioned beneath the body, allowing for more efficient movement across the scorched terrain. Their lungs, more advanced than their competitors, made breathing easier in a world with low oxygen levels. They had developed stronger hearts, faster metabolisms, and greater resilience to heat. The first archosaurs were modest in appearance. Small, agile, and unassuming. They moved cautiously through the remnants of ruined forests and drying riverbeds. But what they lacked in size, they made up for in potential. They were the seeds of a revolution. Over time, while other survivors clung desperately to shrinking ecological niches, the archosaurs diversified. Some became agile hunters with sharp teeth and strong jaws. Others evolved armored bodies and defensive postures. Some would eventually walk on 2 legs, while others would tower on 4. They filled empty spaces left behind by the extinction spaces, once ruled by theropsids and ancient amphibians. With each generation, they moved closer to a new kind of dominance. But it wasn't just evolution at play. The Earth itself had changed. It shaped global weather patterns in extreme ways. The vast interior of this landmass was hot, dry, and seasonal. Monsoons swept the coasts. Windstorms howled across inland deserts. Species were forced to migrate or perish. Plants evolved new ways to store water. Insect populations, though fewer, began to recover and play their part in this new ecological drama. And with these changes, archosaurs thrived. They began to outcompete the remnants of the old world. Their hips, lungs, and hearts made them better suited to the new planet forming beneath their feet. With every generation, they became faster, smarter, more adaptable. They weren't yet the giants of the Jurassic, but their rise had begun in the ashes of the past. Some of the earliest archosaurs were the ancestors of creatures that would one day become crocodiles. Others would give rise to a new form, entirely one that would dominate the next 150 million years. Dinosaurs. But at this stage, they remained hidden among the crowd. Small, quick, and often overlooked. Early dinosauriforms like Nyasasaurus and Herrerasaurus had not yet taken the throne. They waited for their moment, slowly honing the traits that would one day make them kings of land, sea, and sky. In the oceans, too, life began to stir again. After the Permian extinction, reefs took millions of years to recover, But eventually, they did. New species of mollusks, bony fish, and marine reptiles began to appear. Ammonites, once nearly wiped out, returned in spirals of complexity. Early ichthyosaurs marine reptiles resembling dolphins began to evolve in shallow seas, their bodies streamlined for a new kind of aquatic hunting. It was a slow rebirth, but one that followed the laws of natural selection without pause. Insects, often the hidden architects of ecosystems, also found their way back. New beetles evolved to break down decaying plant matter. Dragonflies soared above recovering rivers. Pollinators reappeared, coaxing plants into new coevolutionary dances. Every small success was a step away from the void of extinction. But none of this was guaranteed. Recovery after the Permian extinction took at least 10 million years. It is the longest ecological recovery in the history of the planet. Why it took so long remains a subject of study, but the reasons point to both the scale of the devastation and the instability that followed. Earth remained a harsh place. Volcanic activity continued. Climate swings were extreme. Biodiversity remained low, which made ecosystems fragile and susceptible to collapse. Evolution marched forward, but every step was precarious. And yet, from this darkness, a new age began to rise, not with explosions or grandeur, but with quiet persistence. Life pushed forward in silence, beneath the soil, in burrows, along coastlines, and in shallow seas. And among the archosaurs, something was changing. Some began to walk upright, lifting their torsos from the ground. This simple shift would unlock an entire new realm of possibilities. It allowed greater speed, longer strides, and a better field of view. It freed the forelimbs for other tasks. It began to separate them from their quadrupedal ancestors and competitors. This small advantage, played out over countless generations, would tip the balance of power. The ruins of the Permian had become the foundation for a new era. With resilience as their guide and adaptation as their weapon, the archosaurs stood poised to inherit the Earth. They were not yet dinosaurs, not yet legends, but they were ready. The silence of extinction had passed, and in its place, a quiet heartbeat was growing louder. The age of reptiles was beginning. 230 million years ago, in the twilight of the Triassic period, the Earth trembled with quiet change. It was a world of extremes, intense heat during the day, bitter cold at night, long dry seasons interrupted by violent monsoons. Rivers snaked through arid basins. Deserts stretched into the horizon. Volcanoes hissed in the distance, their plumes a constant reminder of Earth's restless heart. The Permian extinction had paved the way for new life to emerge, and by the late Triassic, ecosystems had begun to recover and diversify. Conifer forests spread across highlands. Horsetails and cycads lined ancient floodplains. Insects returned in full force. Amphibians clung to shrinking wetlands. Reptiles adapted to nearly every niche, some returning to the sea, others taking to the skies. And then, hidden among these rebounding forms of life, a quiet revolution began. The archosaurs had already become a dominant force. Among them were ancestors of crocodilians, sleek predators of rivers and swamps, armored and patient. But another group smaller, more agile, and mostly unnoticed was beginning to rise. Their bones were hollow, their bodies light, their movements swift. They walked on two legs, with tails stiffened for balance. They had sharp teeth, grasping hands, and keen eyesight. They were the first dinosaurs. In the fossil record, they emerge like whispers in stone fragments of hips, teeth, and limbs scattered across South America, Africa, and India. They do not appear as giants. There are no towering necks or thunderous footsteps. These early dinosaurs were modest in size, many no larger than a modern dog, but their anatomy told a different story. Every joint, every limb, every vertebrae was a blueprint for something far greater. These early forms such as Eoraptor, Herrerasaurus, and Staurocosaurus were theropods, the ancestors of the most fearsome predators the planet would ever know. Small, agile, and carnivorous, they hunted lizards, insects, and perhaps even each other. Their legs were built for speed, their eyes faced forward, granting depth perception. Their claws were curved, designed for gripping and tearing. But they were not alone. From other branches of the dinosaur family tree came the sauropodomorph herbivorous dinosaurs that would one day evolve into the colossal, long-necked sauropods. At this stage, they were still bipedal, with relatively short necks and strong jaws. Plateosaurus, one of the earliest known, grew up to 10 meters long and moved in herds through fern-covered valleys. Then came the ornithischians, a group whose name means bird-hipped, though birds would not evolve from them. They were small, plant-eating dinosaurs with beaked mouths, likely adapted for cropping tough vegetation. Lesothosaurus and Heterodontosaurus were early members of this group, skittish and fast, always alert to the predators stalking nearby. These three major branchous theropods, sauropodomorphs, and ornithischians formed the foundation of what dinosaurs would become. Their divergence during the late Triassic marked the beginning of a dynasty that would span the next 160 million years. But their rise was anything but dramatic. Dinosaurs did not instantly dominate the Earth. They were not born into power. For millions of years, they shared their world with other reptiles, many of them larger and more successful. The rhynchosaurs, stocky plant-eaters with powerful jaws, were widespread and abundant. Ichthyosaurs, heavily armored with bony plates, ruled the floodplains. Phytosaurs, crocodile-like predators with long snouts and ambush tactics, controlled the waterways. Dinosaurs, by contrast, remained in the background. They occupied marginal roller-small predators, swift scavengers, minor grazers. They were adaptable, but not yet dominant. Evolution works not with grand entrances, but with patience. The traits that would one day elevate dinosaur-like skeletons, efficient lungs, fast growth rates were already in place. They simply needed the right opportunity. That opportunity came, as it so often does, through disaster. Toward the end of the Triassic, the planet was once again thrown into chaos. Massive volcanic eruptions tore through the central Atlantic magmatic province. Lava flowed across continents. Carbon dioxide surged into the atmosphere. Temperatures soared. Acid rain fell. Ecosystems collapsed. And a second mass extinction, the Triassic-Jurassic, event erased many of the dinosaurs' competitors. The rhynchosaurs vanished. The Ichthyosaurs disappeared. Phytosaurs were no more. Countless species of amphibians, reptiles, and plants were lost. In the vacuum that followed, dinosaurs expanded into niches they had never held before. The survivors were fast, mobile, and efficient. They could cover long distances. They could exploit diverse food sources. Their lungs, thought to be similar to those of modern birds, allowed them to thrive in low-oxygen environments. Their eggs could be laid on dry land without fear of desiccation. From marginal players, they became rulers. In the wake of extinction, evolution favored the resilient, and the dinosaurs were ready. Their numbers exploded. They spread across the fragmented remains of Pangaea, where once they had been confined to certain regions, they now occupied forests, plains, deserts, and coastal cliffs. Their sizes diversified. Their shapes shifted. Their diets specialized. Some walked on 4 legs. Others soared on 2. Some grew armor. Others grew horns. Some developed feathers. And yet, they remained tethered to their Triassic origins. Every giant that would one day walk the earth was once a creature like Eoraptorite, fast and quiet. Every towering sauropod, every horned ceratopsian, every raptor and tyrannosaur was born from the humble beginnings of these small, overlooked reptiles. Their evolutionary path was not guaranteed. It was carved by chance, disaster, and adaptation. But at its core, it was driven by biology and anatomy that was built not just to survive but to persist. By the end of the Triassic, dinosaurs were no longer whispers in stone. They were the voice of the land. and soon, they would shape the world in their image. The age of reptiles was no longer approaching. It had arrived. The Jurassic period began not with a roar, but with recovery. The extinction at the end of the Triassic had swept clean the ancient world. In its wake, nature redrew the lines of life. Volcanoes cooled, skies cleared, forests crept back across the land, rivers returned, carving through soft soil, feeding valleys of green. And where there was emptiness, evolution began to fill it with new creatures, new strategies, and new giants. Among them, the sauropods. From the quiet edges of the late Triassic, these creatures had already begun their ascent. Small bipedal ancestors like Plesiosaurus hinted at what was to come: long necks, barrel-shaped torsos, plant-based diets. But in the Jurassic, they transformed. Their limbs thickened. Their necks stretched like living cranes. Their tails became heavy whips of balance and defense, and their size, already impressive, exploded into something the world had never seen before. They became the largest animals ever to walk the Earth. Across what is now South America, Africa, Europe, and Asia, the fossils of these titans lie buried beneath layers of ancient stone. Mamenchisaurus in China, with a neck stretching more than 15 meters, Diplodocus in North America, longer than a city bus, Apatosaurus, with its thunderous gait and colossal frame, and later, the mighty Brachiosaurus towering like a walking mountain, front limbs longer than the back, head held high above the trees. To be massive was no accident. It was an advantage. The sheer size of sauropods gave them freedom. Predators rarely challenged them. Their height gave them access to treetop vegetation untouched by others. Their gut, vast and complex, could slowly ferment tough plants. Their legs, columnar and pillar-like, bore the immense weight with biomechanical grace. But size alone wasn't enough. Inside their bones, nature found solutions to problems most creatures never faced. Their skeletons were riddled with air. Hollow spaces, known as pneumatic cavities, filled their vertebrae, reducing weight while maintaining strength. These weren't fragile creatures, they were engineered for efficiency. An intricate network of air sacs, connected to their lungs, allowed for continuous airflow. It was a system not unlike that found in modern birds, delivering oxygen more effectively than any reptilian lung. Such adaptations were not optional, they were essential. Because sauropods were not just large, they were alive in a world that demanded movement. They roamed for food, for water, for mates. A body that weighed over 50 tons needed to be light wherever it could. Every kilogram mattered. Every step counted. Their hearts had to pump blood over distances measured in meters from chest to brain. Their necks, while long, were surprisingly flexible, built from interlocking vertebrae and stabilized by ligaments. Their brains, small by comparison, didn't hinder them. Instinct and structure did most of the work. Evolution sculpted them not to think deeply, but to live effectively. And they did. They moved in herds, sometimes dozens strong. Fossilized trackways show synchronized movement, juveniles in the center, adults flanking the sides. It was protection. It was community. It was survival. In these herds, new generations were born. Eggs, laid in shallow nests, hatched into creatures already the size of a sheep, and from birth, they grew rapidly. Growth rings in bones show that many sauropods reached adult size in just a few decades, the remarkable feat for such immense creatures. And still, they grew. As forests rose, they followed. As floodplains shifted, they adapted. Their teeth were not designed for chewing, but for stripping raking leaves and swallowing them whole. Stomach stones, known as gastroliths, helped grind the contents internally. Digestion was a long process but constant. These creatures were biological furnaces, always feeding, always moving, always reshaping the ecosystem around them. Because when a sauropod walked, the earth felt it. Their steps compressed soil, their feeding trimmed canopies. Their migration patterns carved paths across continents. They were more than animals. They were geological forces. Ecosystems evolved around them, plants adapting to grow quickly, to recover from constant grazing. Where sauropods traveled, they left behind open clearings, fertilized with their waste, seeded with new life. They were gardeners of the Jurassic. Their presence sculpted the land, and in doing so, they sculpted the future. Yet, they did not exist in isolation. Predators followed them. Theropodsum, as large as Allosaurus, stalked the edges of herds, looking for the weak, the old, the young. These carnivores were strong, fast, and deadly. Their teeth were serrated like steak knives. Their jaws could crush bone. But even they dared not attack an adult sauropod unless desperate. The risk was too great. A single swing of that massive tail could shatter bone, and a trampling footfall could end a hunt in seconds. And so, balance was struck. The Jurassic was not just an age of giants, it was an age of relationships, predators and prey, forests and feeders, birth and decay. Everything was connected, everything was vast. Even the skies were changing. Small feathered theropods were beginning to leap, to glide, to flap. Early pterosaurs already ruled the air, diving and swooping through ancient skies. The oceans teemed with marine reptiles. But on land, in the forests and plains, it was the sauropods who reigned. They were not intelligent by human standards. They had no language, no tools, no cities. But intelligence is not the only path to dominance. Sometimes, survival is sculpted by scale, and no creature on land would ever surpass them in size. Even today, the echoes of their legacy endure. The long neck, the massive torso, the elegant tail. These forms defined the Jurassic landscape. Their bones, turned to stone, still lie hidden beneath hillsides and deserts. Paleontologists piece them together, vertebra by vertebra, reconstructing a world that once trembled beneath their weight. And though they are gone, the earth remembers them. In every thunderclap, in every tremor, in the low rumble of distant footsteps imagined in dreams, the giants of the Jurassic are not forgotten. They are written into the bedrock of time. They are proof that life, when given the chance, can rise to unimaginable heights. They are the weight of life itself. The Jurassic World was one of balance, a place where life flourished, where plant-eaters roamed the earth in herds, and the skies were teeming with winged reptiles. But as lush as the landscape was, there were those who lived by the law of the hunt, the predators. From the early days of the Jurassic, predation evolved into a powerful force, changing the dynamics of the ecosystem and establishing the fundamental relationships that would persist for millions of years. The process of evolution is not always immediate. It's a slow, deliberate force, one that plays out over vast stretches of time, but it's relentless. And for the predators of the Jurassic, this meant a gradual refinement of their hunting abilities, transforming them from nimble, opportunistic scavengers into the apex predators that would rule the land. Early on, in the late Triassic, the first true carnivorous dinosaurs began to emerge. Creatures like Coelophus, small and fleet-footed, hunted in packs, using their speed and agility to chase down prey. They were not the massive, terrifying predators that we think of today, but their evolutionary importance cannot be overstated. Coelophus was one of the first to truly embrace the social aspect of hunting, using coordinated efforts to overpower its prey. This would be a model for future carnivore hunting in groups, relying on strategy and collaboration to take down animals much larger than themselves. However, this early success was just a stepping stone. The world was changing, and with it, so too were the predators. With the dawn of the Jurassic period came a new era for predation. The extinction event at the end of the Triassic had left behind a world in flux, and those predators that survived the chaos began to thrive. It wasn't just the survivors who dominated, though. It was the new predators, those who evolved with sharper teeth, more powerful legs, and keen senses who would become the new masters of the land. And none would exemplify this more than the mighty Allosaurus. The Allosaurus was the first true apex predator of the Jurassic period. Towering over the landscape, it was one of the largest carnivores of its time. With a body built for power and speed, it could bring down prey with swift, efficient attacks. Its skull was large, with teeth that were long, serrated, and razor-sharp designed to tear through the flesh of herbivorous dinosaurs. And its jaws could open wide, enabling it to swallow large chunks of meat whole. The Allosaurus was not just about brute strength, though. It was a hunter of intelligence, capable of using its speed and agility to outmaneuver its prey. Its legs, long and muscular, allowed it to chase down herbivores with impressive speed. Its feet were equipped with sharp, claw-like talons, able to tear into the flesh of its victims. Its vision was sharp, its stereoscopic eyesight giving it the ability to gauge distance and trajectory with uncanny accuracy. In short, the Allosaurus was a killing machina creature that had evolved every part of its body to become the perfect predator. But the Allosaurus was not alone in its pursuit of dominance. Alongside it, another predator was on the rise, Ceratosaurus. Smaller than the Allosaurus, Ceratosaurus was still a force to be reckoned with. Its distinctive feature was the horn-like structure atop its nose, a unique trait that set it apart from other carnivores. Its body was built for speed, with a long tail that helped balance its agile movements. Its sharp teeth, capable of tearing through flesh, were complemented by its keen sense of smell. Ceratosaurus hunted in the same way as the Allosaurus, using speed, strength, and intelligence to outwit and overpower its prey. But Ceratosaurus, like all the great predators of the Jurassic, was more than just a collection of traits. It was part of a much larger picture, a world in which predators didn't simply live alongside herbivores. They shaped the ecosystem. They controlled it. The role of predators in an ecosystem is more than just a matter of survival. Predators don't just consume, they control the balance of life. By hunting herbivores, they regulate population sizes, ensuring that the landscape doesn't become overrun with plant-eating creatures. This is essential for maintaining the health of the ecosystem. Without predators, plant life would be consumed at an unsustainable rate, and other creatures would lose their food sources. Predators also help keep the prey population healthy, often hunting the sick, the weak, and the old, ensuring that only the strongest survive to reproduce. And the predators of the Jurassic had no competition. They were, by and large, the dominant forces of their time. They had no natural enemies. They were at the top of the food chain. For creatures like the Allosaurus, this meant they were free to roam the land without fear, controlling vast territories, their very presence altering the environment. It wasn't just the size and strength of the predators that made them so effective, it was their efficiency. A predator like the Allosaurus was an expert in the art of the hunt. It had perfected the techniques needed to track, chase, and kill. It knew how to use its speed and agility to close the gap between itself and its prey. Its teeth and claws were weapons honed over millions of years of evolutionary pressure. Its keen sense sessite, smell, and hearing allowed it to detect prey from miles away. The evolution of these predators had been driven by a constant battle for survival. For every advantage gained by the predators, the prey had evolved in response. Herbivores developed better defense mechanisms, growing thicker hides or tougher, spikier exteriors to protect themselves. Some, like the Stegosaurs, grew sharp plates and spines along their backs, while others, like the Ankylosaurs, developed armored bodies and clubbed tails to defend against attacks. Speed became another line of defense, with many herbivores becoming faster and more agile to evade the chasing jaws of predators. But no matter how much the prey adapted, the predators were always a step ahead. The evolution of hunting strategies, sharper weapons, and refined senses made it increasingly difficult for herbivores to escape the predator's grasp. Predators, in turn, shaped the plant-eating dinosaurs, forcing them to evolve into more specialized forms. The relationship between predator and prey became a never-ending arms race, with both sides pushing each other to evolve in ever more sophisticated ways. But beyond all the adaptations and strategies, there was something more fundamental at work. The predators of the Jurassic were not simply creatures of instinct. They were reflections of a larger, evolutionary force, one that shaped every aspect of life. They were part of the natural order. They had evolved not just to survive, but to thrive. The dominance of the predators in the Jurassic period was not an accident. It was the result of millions of years of evolutionary fine-tuning, a process that had refined their hunting abilities to the point of perfection. The Allosaurus, the Ceratosaurus, and their kin were not just survivors, they were forces of nature, shaping the landscape and controlling the food chain. They were the ultimate predators, ruling the earth with an unchallenged reign. And yet, for all their might, the predators of the Jurassic were not invincible. The world around them was changing, and in time, new challenges would arise, challenges that would test the very survival of these apex hunters. The dinosaurs were not the only creatures evolving. The ecosystems were in flux, and even the mightiest predators would one day face the consequences of evolution's unyielding march. But for now, the predators ruled, and the world, under their watchful eyes, bent to their will. The balance was theirs to command. The world of the Jurassic was not just a land dominated by dinosaurs. High above, the skies teemed with another group of creatures that were about to redefine the meaning of freedom. While the ground was ruled by the mighty dinosaurs, the air belonged to the pterosaurs, the first vertebrates to conquer flight. The story of the pterosaurs is a tale of radical innovation, of creatures evolving to explore a new frontier that no vertebrate had dared to challenge before. Their wings were not like those of birds or bats. The pterosaurs' wings were an evolutionary marvel, a feat of engineering that allowed them to soar through the skies with unparalleled agility and grace. This was a leap in evolutionary design that set the pterosaurs apart as pioneers of flight, a journey that would forever change the course of life on Earth. The pterosaurs were not birds. They were reptiles, more closely related to dinosaurs than to any modern flying creature. Their ancestors were archosaurs, the same group that would give rise to the mighty dinosaurs. But unlike the land-dwelling dinosaurs, the pterosaurs were adapted for life in the sky. Their wings, made of a membrane stretched between an elongated fourth finger and the rest of their arm, were the key to their flight. Flight is a remarkable achievement, one that would require millions of years of evolutionary trial and error. For the pterosaurs, the journey to the sky began with the simple need to escape predators, find food, or explore new environments. Their ancestors, like all creatures, were grounded, but they began to experiment with the possibilities of flight, gradually evolving the structures needed to take to the air. Their wings were not initially designed for sustained flight, but for gliding, giving them the ability to cover long distances with minimal energy expenditure. However, over time, these early pterosaurs began to develop the power needed for true flight that could carry them not just across great distances, but into the skies where no predator could reach them. The membrane wings of the pterosaurs were supported by a single, elongated finger. This design was both efficient and effective. The fourth finger, greatly extended and elongated, was the foundation of the wing, supporting the thin, leathery membrane that allowed the pterosaur to glide and soar. This wing structure was unlike anything found in modern animals, and represented a unique solution to the problem of flight. Where birds and bats use their entire arm for flight, pterosaurs used a single elongated finger to support the majority of the wing, with the membrane stretched between it and the rest of the limb. This allowed them to have large, powerful wings capable of carrying their large bodies into the sky. The diversity of pterosaurs was astonishing. There were species of all sizes, from the small, agile ones that darted through the air like modern-day birds, to the gigantic ones that could stretch their wingspans over 30 feet across, casting shadows over the land below. Some were equipped with long, toothless beaks, ideal for scooping up fish and other prey from the water, while others had powerful jaws filled with sharp teeth, perfect for hunting other creatures or scavenging from carcasses. Some pterosaurs had elongated crests on their heads, likely used for communication or mating displays, while others sported fur-like pycnofibers along their bodies, possibly for thermoregulation. These pycnofibers were a remarkable adaptation, similar to fur, and likely helped the pterosaurs maintain their body heat in the chilly heights of the sky. Thermoregulation is a crucial aspect of flight, especially for creatures that fly at high altitudes, where temperatures can drop significantly. By developing this fur-like covering, pterosaurs could maintain their internal temperatures even when soaring to great heights, enabling them to remain active for longer periods. Some pterosaurs, like the smaller species, might have used pycnofibers for insulation, while larger pterosaurs may have used them to help with temperature control while flying over long distances. The sheer scale of the pterosaurs' flight capabilities was nothing short of extraordinary. These flying reptiles were able to cover vast distances, traveling across entire landscapes in search of food or to find new habitats. For the larger species, this meant that they could soar over water and land, searching for fish or marine reptiles to feed upon. Some pterosaurs, like the long-beaked Pterodaustro, specialized in filtering small organisms from the water using their comb-like teeth. Others, like the fish-eating Pteranodon, hunted with speed and precision, diving into the water to capture their prey. But it wasn't just the food that drew the pterosaurs into the skies. It was the freedom, the ability to explore new areas, to escape danger, and to carve out a niche in an otherwise crowded world. Pterosaurs found refuge in the skies, where the predators of the land couldn't reach them. For the first time in evolutionary history, creatures had figured out how to conquer the air, opening up an entirely new realm of possibility for survival and reproduction. The pterosaurs' mastery of flight also allowed them to exploit new ecological niches. By flying over the land, they could scout out food sources, check for the presence of predators, and cover vast areas in search of mates. Their ability to glide effortlessly through the air meant they could travel further and faster than any of the land-dwelling dinosaurs below, giving them a unique advantage in a rapidly changing world. As with all species, the pterosaurs were subject to the pressures of natural selection. Their wings, while revolutionary, came with their own set of challenges. The large, open membrane wings of the pterosaur created significant drag, and for larger pterosaurs, the act of flight required great strength. The muscles needed to flap these massive wings were huge, allowing the pterosaurs to generate enough lift to take flight. However, this also meant that the pterosaurs required vast amounts of energy to keep themselves airborne. For the smaller pterosaurs, flight was likely a quick and efficient way to catch prey or avoid danger. But for the larger species, the act of taking flight could be a more laborious process. The challenge of flight, combined with the ever-changing nature of the Earth, led to the rise of different pterosaur species with varying flight adaptations. Some, like the small Pterodaustro, were expert gliders, capable of covering vast distances with minimal effort. Others, like the enormous Pteranodon, had wingspans so large they could stay in the air for extended periods without needing to land. These flying reptiles represented the pinnacle of vertebrate flight, and their mastery of the skies made them one of the most successful and diverse groups of animals in Earth's history. However, flight was not the only way that pterosaurs adapted to their environment. Many pterosaurs also adapted to different environments, evolving various specialized traits for life in the air and near the water. Some species, like the Pterodaustro, developed long, slender beaks to filter food from the water, while others, like the Pteranodon, had long beaks designed for catching fish mid-flight. The development of these specialized features gave pterosaurs an ecological advantage, allowing them to exploit various food sources and habitats that their terrestrial counterparts could not. The pterosaur's dominance in the skies continued for millions of years, reaching its peak during the Jurassic period. They evolved into one of the most successful and diverse groups of animals, with more than 120 recognized species. Their ability to adapt to different environments coupled with their mastery of flight, allowed them to thrive in a variety of ecosystems, from coastal regions to inland areas, and from lush forests to arid deserts. In a world where the land was dominated by dinosaurs, the skies were the domain of the pterosaurs, and their reign over the air continued for millions of years. But as with all reigns, there would come a time when the pterosaurs would have to face new challenges. The skies, once their domain, would no longer be theirs alone. New creatures would emerge, and the Earth itself would continue to change in ways the pterosaurs could never have imagined. Yet, for now, they ruled the air. Their wings cut through the sky like knives, and their shadows stretched across the land below. The pterosaurs had conquered the heavens. The oceans of the Jurassic were a world unto themselves, vast, mysterious, and teeming with life. Beneath the surface, a completely different ecosystem thrived, one where the rules of survival were shaped by water rather than land. As dinosaurs ruled the terrestrial landscapes, the seas were ruled by a completely different group of creatures, marine reptiles. These animals, which were not true dinosaurs, had evolved from terrestrial ancestors to dominate the oceans in ways that were as extraordinary as the feats of their land-dwelling counterparts. The oceanic world of the Jurassic was home to some of the most formidable predators to ever swim through the Earth's waters. Creatures like Ichthyosaurs, Plesiosaurs, and mosasaurs filled the seas, dominating marine environments and establishing themselves as the apex predators in their watery world. These animals were built for speed, agility, and strength, evolving to tackle the challenges of a life underwater. They were the monsters of the Jurassic Ocean's predators, unlike any other. One of the most iconic groups of marine reptiles were the Ichthyosaurs. Their name comes from the Greek words ichthys, meaning fish, and sauros, meaning lizard, which makes sense given their fish-like body shape. Ichthyosaurs looked as though they were creatures from another planeta, perfect blend of reptilian and aquatic adaptations. They were streamlined, with long, slender bodies built for swift movement through the water. Their bodies resembled that of modern-day dolphins, with a long, tapered head and a powerful tail. Ichthyosaurs were built for speed, able to zip through the water with remarkable efficiency. Their bodies were adapted for life in the open ocean, where they could chase down prey and avoid predators with incredible agility. The Ichthyosaur's streamlined body allowed it to reach remarkable speeds, as much as 25 miles per hour in short bursts. Their long tails acted as powerful propellers, while their limbs had evolved into paddle-like flippers, ideal for quick propulsion through the water. This body plan enabled them to travel long distances across the ocean in search of food, and they could dive to great depths to hunt for fish and cephalopods. The Ichthyosaur's large eyes were an adaptation to the murky depths they often explored. These oversized eyes were perfect for hunting in low-light environments, giving them the ability to spot prey even in the darkest parts of the ocean. They were predators of the deep, their eyes scanning the water for anything that moved. The Ichthyosaurs were not alone in their reign over the seas. Alongside them, Plesiosaurs ruled the oceanic depths, their long necks and powerful bodies making them one of the most iconic marine reptiles of the era. Unlike the Ichthyosaurs, Plesiosaurs had short bodies and long, graceful necks, giving them a distinctive appearance that set them apart from other marine reptiles. Their bodies were also well adapted to an aquatic lifestyle, with 4 large paddle-like flippers that allowed them to glide through the water with incredible precision. Plesiosaurs used their long necks to capture prey, snaking through the water like an eel to snatch fish and squid from the depths. The Plesiosaurs' long necks were not just for show, they were highly functional, helping these animals to catch prey in a way that no other marine reptile could. Their necks gave them incredible maneuverability, allowing them to strike quickly at prey from a distance. This adaptation made them highly effective hunters, capable of catching fast-moving fish and other marine creatures that would have been difficult for other animals to capture. In addition to their necks, Plesiosaurs also had large, sharp teeth designed for grasping and holding onto their prey. Their jaws could deliver a powerful bite, securing their meal before it had a chance to escape. These marine reptiles had evolved to fill a wide range of ecological niches, and the oceans were divided into different territories based on the needs of each species. Ichthyosaurs and Plesiosaurs lived in different parts of the ocean, each occupying its own ecological niche. Ichthyosaurs were faster, more agile, and better suited for chasing down fast-moving prey, while Plesiosaurs, with their long necks and powerful bodies, were better suited to capturing prey in tight spaces and from a distance. The Jurassic oceans were a dangerous place, and the marine reptiles that inhabited them were no less fearsome than the terrestrial predators that roamed the land. Large predatory fish like the megalodon and giant sharks competed with marine reptiles for food, while other marine reptiles like the giant sea turtles and crocodiles kept to themselves, hunting for smaller prey in the shallows. The oceans were a deadly place, where only the strongest survived. The marine reptiles were not only predators, they were also prey. Large schools of fish and other smaller marine animals were hunted by the larger predators of the ocean, creating a complex food web that sustained life in the depths. These animals often had to use speed, agility, and cunning to avoid being eaten by the larger predators that stalked the waters. The life of a marine reptile in the Jurassic was one of constant struggle, a battle for survival in a harsh and unforgiving world. The competition between the marine reptiles was fierce, and the oceans themselves were transformed by the presence of these apex predators. The Ichthyosaurs and Plesiosaurs were not just competing for food, they were also competing for space in a crowded ocean. The oceans were constantly shifting, with new creatures emerging and others disappearing. As the climate and environment changed, so too did the distribution of marine reptiles, leading to new challenges and new opportunities for evolution. The world of the marine reptiles was one of constant change and adaptation. The Ichthyosaurs and Plesiosaurs had evolved to fill the roles of apex predators, but new species continued to emerge, challenging their dominance. As the oceans continued to change, so too did the creatures that inhabited them. The Jurassic oceans were a dynamic, evolving ecosystem, one where only the fittest and most adaptable survived. Despite the constant threats and challenges of the Jurassic oceans, the marine reptiles flourished, becoming some of the most successful and diverse groups of animals on Earth. The Ichthyosaurs, Plesiosaurs, and other marine reptiles dominated the seas for millions of years, shaping the landscape of the ocean and establishing themselves as some of the most fearsome creatures to ever live. As the ages passed, the oceans of the Jurassic would continue to be ruled by these incredible animals. But like all great empires, their reign would eventually come to an end. The climate would change, the seas would shift, and the marine reptiles would face new challenges that they could not overcome. Yet for now, they were the monsters of the ocean rulers of a world that was as dangerous as it was beautiful. The marine reptiles of the Jurassic oceans are a testament to the power of evolution, to the way that life adapts and thrives in the most extreme environments. Their bodies, their behaviors, and their lifestyles were shaped by millions of years of evolution, creating creatures that were perfectly suited to life in the water. From the fast and agile Ichthyosaurs to the powerful and deadly Plesiosaurs, these animals represented the pinnacle of marine life in the Jurassic. And though their reign would eventually end, the legacy of the Jurassic marine reptiles would live on, etched into the fossil record for generations to come. The Jurassic period was a time of extraordinary change, not just in the animal kingdom, but also in the plant life that formed the foundation of the entire ecosystem. This era saw the rise of some of the most iconic and important plants in the history of life on Earth. The dense forests of ferns, cycads, and conifers that covered the planet were not only the backdrop to the towering dinosaurs, but also the driving force behind their evolution. These plants played a pivotal role in fueling the growth of mega-herbivores and shaping the ecosystems of the Jurassic world. The Jurassic was a time when plant life underwent significant evolutionary changes that would have lasting effects on the planet. The flora of this era was dominated by ferns, cycads, and conifers, groups of plants that had evolved long before the dinosaurs appeared, but which now began to flourish in new and exciting ways. These plants were not just the food source for herbivores, they were also the engines of the ecosystem, driving the massive growth of plant-eating dinosaurs and shaping the landscapes they inhabited. The rise of ferns, cycads, and conifers. Ferns, Cycads and conifers were already present during the late Triassic, but it was in the Jurassic that these groups truly began to flourish. Each of these plant groups had unique features that allowed them to thrive in the changing climate of the period. Ferns, which had existed for hundreds of millions of years, were one of the dominant plant forms in the Jurassic. These non-flowering plants, with their feathery fronds and spore-based reproduction, formed the foundation of the plant life in many ecosystems. Ferns grew in dense patches, often covering vast areas of the landscape. Their ability to grow quickly and colonize large areas made them a critical food source for herbivores during this time. Their dense growth also provided shelter for smaller animals, creating complex and diverse habitats within Jurassic forests. Cycads, another important group of plants during the Jurassic period, were large, palm-like plants with stiff, fern-like leaves. These plants were particularly well suited to the hot, dry conditions of the Jurassic and were found in many of the region's arid environments. Cycads were among the first plants to produce seeds, which gave them a significant evolutionary advantage over the spore-producing ferns. Although cycads were less common than ferns in some areas, they were still an important component of Jurassic plant life. They provided food for herbivores and played a role in stabilizing the soil in some regions. Conifers, the most advanced group of plants during the Jurassic, were the true giants of the time. These plants, which included the first true trees, grew to enormous sizes and formed the dense forests that would eventually become fossilized into coal deposits. Conifers were unique in that they reproduced using seeds, a major evolutionary step up from the spore-based reproduction of ferns and cycads. The presence of seeds allowed conifers to reproduce more effectively and survive in a wider range of environments, from wet lowlands to dry, high-altitude regions. The Jurassic saw the first appearance of forests dominated by these giant conifers, towering trees, some of which reached over 100 feet in height, began to spread across the planet. These forests were home to a diverse array of plant and animal life, and the canopy of conifers provided shelter for countless species. Beneath the towering trees, ferns and cycads formed thick underbrush, creating a complex and layered ecosystem that supported a wide range of herbivores, from the small, nimble dinosaurs to the massive sauropods. The role of plants in fueling megaherbivore growth. As the plant life of the Jurassic flourished, so too did the animals that relied on it for sustenance. The increased abundance of food allowed herbivores to grow larger and more numerous, setting the stage for the emergence of some of the most massive creatures to ever walk the earth. The relationship between plants and herbivores in the Jurassic was symbiotic. While plants provided the energy needed for herbivores to grow, these animals also played an important role in shaping plant life through grazing and seed dispersal. One of the key drivers of the rise of megaherbivores in the Jurassic was the sheer abundance of plant matter available to them. The dense forests of ferns, cycads, and conifers provided a steady and reliable food source for herbivores throughout the period. Sauropods, the massive plant-eating dinosaurs that dominated the Jurassic landscape, fed on vast quantities of vegetation every day, often consuming entire trees. The sheer size of these herbivores meant that they had to eat enormous amounts of plant matter to sustain their massive bodies. In fact, it is estimated that some of the largest sauropods consumed as much as 880 pounds of vegetation per day. The ability of herbivores to process such vast quantities of plant material was a key factor in the development of their massive size. The Jurassic period saw the rise of some of the largest animals ever to walk the earth, including species like Apatosaurus, Brachiosaurus, and Diplodocus. These sauropods evolved specialized adaptations to help them feed on the abundant vegetation. Their long necks allowed them to reach high into the trees, while their massive bodies gave them the strength to push over large plants and trees. Their large, barrel-shaped bodies and slow, steady pace made them well adapted to processing large amounts of vegetation. Megaherbivores like sauropods were not the only dinosaurs to benefit from the growth of Jurassic flora. Other herbivores, such as Stegosaurs and Ankylosaurs, also thrived in the lush, plant-filled environments. These dinosaurs evolved unique adaptations to help them feed on the dense vegetation. Stegosaurs, for example, had broad, flat teeth that allowed them to process tough plant material, while Ankylosaurs had specialized jaws and teeth for grinding up plant matter. The rise of these massive herbivores had profound effects on the ecosystems of the Jurassic period. As the mega herbivores grew in size and numbers, they began to shape the landscape in new ways. The constant grazing of these animals kept the plant life in check, preventing any one species of plant from dominating the ecosystem. The large herbivores also created open spaces within the dense forests, allowing for the growth of new plant species and the expansion of diverse habitats. In this way, the plants of the Jurassic period were not just a food source for herbivores, they were active participants in the ongoing cycle of life, providing the energy that drove the evolution of the dinosaurs. The atmospheric oxygen boom. One of the most important factors that fueled the growth of plants and mega herbivores during the Jurassic period was the dramatic increase in atmospheric oxygen. During the earlier part of the Mesozoic era, the Earth's atmosphere was gradually becoming more oxygen-rich, a trend that would peak during the Jurassic period. This increase in oxygen levels had a number of far-reaching effects on life on Earth, from the growth of plants to the size and metabolism of animals. The increase in atmospheric oxygen allowed plants to grow larger and more efficiently. With more oxygen available to fuel photosynthesis, plants were able to produce more energy, which in turn supported the growth of larger herbivores. The high oxygen levels in the atmosphere also allowed for the development of larger and more complex ecosystems. Dense forests of towering conifers and cycads provided ample resources for the growing number of herbivores, while the increased oxygen levels in the air allowed these animals to sustain their massive bodies. The oxygen boom also had a direct impact on the size of the dinosaurs themselves. Larger animals require more oxygen to sustain their bodies, and the increase in atmospheric oxygen during the Jurassic period allowed dinosaurs to grow to unprecedented sizes. The oxygen-rich environment supported the massive lung capacity of sauropods, enabling them to take in the large amounts of oxygen they needed to support their massive bodies. Similarly, the high levels of oxygen in the air allowed other groups of animals, such as pterosaurs and marine reptiles, to grow larger and more powerful. A green world. The Jurassic period was truly a green world, with vast forests of ferns, cycads, and conifers dominating the landscape. These plants not only provided the foundation for the thriving ecosystems of the time, but they also played a key role in fueling the evolution of the dinosaurs. As the atmospheric oxygen levels rose, plants flourished, and herbivores grew to extraordinary sizes. The dense forests and abundant vegetation of the Jurassic period were the engines that powered the rise of the mega herbivores, and the unique relationship between plants and animals would continue to shape the Earth's ecosystems for millions of years to come. In the end, the green engine of Jurassic flora was not just the backdrop to the age of Reptiles, it was the driving force behind the explosion of life that defined this period. Without the dense forests of ferns, cycads, and conifers, the massive dinosaurs of the Jurassic would never have been able to grow to the sizes they did. It was the plants that fueled the rise of the great herbivores, and the plants that formed the backbone of the Jurassic ecosystem. The rise of plants in the Jurassic period marked a turning point in the history of life on Earth. It was a time when the Earth's flora grew to unprecedented sizes, fueling the growth of the largest animals to ever walk the planet. This green revolution set the stage for the evolution of the dinosaurs and the ecosystems that would come to define the Mesozoic era. The Jurassic period was a time of immense change. As the land-based ecosystems evolved and diversified, new forms of defense emerged, transforming the way animals survived in a world where predators ruled. For herbivorous dinosaurs, survival meant developing strategies to protect themselves from the growing threat of carnivores. This need for defense led to the rise of some of the most iconic and heavily armored creatures to ever walk the Earth. The Stegosaurs and Ankylosaurs, two of the most distinctive groups of herbivorous dinosaurs, evolved some of the most elaborate natural defenses in the history of life on Earth. The Stegosaurs were among the first to develop what can only be described as living armor. Their bodies were equipped with large, bony plates that ran along their backs, creating an armored shell that provided both defense and a means of thermoregulation. These plates, which were composed of dense bone and covered in keratin, were likely used to protect the Stegosaur from the carnivorous predators that roamed the Jurassic landscape, such as the Allosaurus. Their sheer size and thick, rugged appearance made them formidable opponents for any predator foolish enough to try and attack them. But the plates weren't just for defense, they also played an important role in regulating the Stegosaur's body temperature. The plates were highly vascularized, meaning they had a rich supply of blood vessels running through them. This allowed the Stegosaur to control the temperature of its body by regulating blood flow to these plates. In the heat of the day, the plates would absorb the sun's warmth, helping the Stegosaur to maintain a stable body temperature. During cooler periods, blood flow to the plates would decrease, allowing the Stegosaur to retain heat. This ability to regulate its temperature made the Stegosaur an incredibly adaptable creature, capable of thriving in a variety of climates. The Stegosaur's back plates were not the only form of defense it had at its disposal. The tail of the Stegosaur was another key adaptation for survival. Equipped with spikes at the end, the tail was a powerful weapon capable of inflicting serious damage on any predator that dared to approach. The Stegosaur could lash its tail with incredible force, striking with precision to ward off potential threats. These spiked tails were likely used in both offense and defense, allowing the Stegosaur to fight off attackers or deter predators from getting too close. But the Stegosaurs were not the only herbivores to develop such formidable defenses. Ankylosaurs, a group of armored dinosaurs that appeared later in the Jurassic, took the concept of natural armor to the next level. Unlike the Stegosaur, which relied on bony plates for protection, the Ankylosaurs developed a heavily armored body covered in thick, bony plates and spikes. These dinosaurs were essentially walking fortresses, massive, heavily armored creatures that were virtually impervious to the attacks of most predators. The Ankylosaur's armor was made up of tough, interlocking bony plates that formed a solid, protective shell around the animal's body. This armor acted as a physical barrier, making it difficult for predators to penetrate the Ankylosaur's defenses. The plates were often arranged in such a way that they covered the animal's back, sides, and even its limbs, leaving little exposed flesh for predators to target. The Ankylosaur's armor was so effective that it would have been nearly impossible for even the largest carnivores to cause any significant harm. The Ankylosaur's most distinctive feature, however, was its tail, a powerful weapon that was capable of inflicting immense damage. The tail of an Ankylosaur was equipped with a massive club made of bone, which could be swung with incredible force. This bone-crushing tail club was a formidable weapon that allowed the Ankylosaur to defend itself against predators. When threatened, the Ankylosaur could deliver a crushing blow to any predator that ventured too close, causing serious injury or even death. The Ankylosaur's tail club was an adaptation that provided it with both offense and defense. It allowed the Ankylosaur to deter predators by delivering a powerful strike, but it also acted as a last line of defense if the animal was cornered. This combination of physical armor and a weaponized tail made the Ankylosaur one of the most heavily defended dinosaurs to ever roam the Earth. The evolution of these armored dinosaurs marked a significant shift in the way herbivores adapted to life in a world filled with hungry predators. As the carnivorous dinosaurs grew in size and power, herbivores like the Stegosaurs and Ankylosaurs evolved increasingly sophisticated forms of defense to protect themselves. These armored creatures were no longer helpless prey, but rather powerful and well-defended animals that could stand their ground against the most formidable carnivores of the era. The rise of living armor had profound implications for the ecosystems of the Jurassic period. As herbivores developed better means of defense, the balance of power shifted in favor of the plant-eating dinosaurs. Predators like the Allosaurus were forced to develop new strategies to hunt their armored prey. The Stegosaurs and Ankylosaurs were not the only herbivores to evolve armor. Other groups of herbivorous dinosaurs, such as the ceratopsians and the pachycephalosaurs, also developed various forms of protection. These animals, with their thick skulls, horns, and other adaptations, made life difficult for the predators that preyed upon them. The evolution of living armor also had significant consequences for the predators of the Jurassic period. As herbivores became better defended, carnivores had to find new ways to hunt and kill their prey. This led to the evolution of new predatory strategies, including the development of larger, more powerful jaws, sharper teeth, and more sophisticated hunting techniques. The rise of living armor in herbivores sparked an evolutionary arms race between herbivores and carnivores, where both groups developed increasingly sophisticated defenses and attacks to survive in a world where every animal was a potential threat. The Stegosaurs, Ankylosaurs, and other armored dinosaurs of the Jurassic period were not just survivors, they were the masters of their world. Their natural armor, combined with their size and strength, allowed them to thrive in a world full of predators. Their adaptations were key to their success, and they shaped the ecosystems of the Jurassic period in profound ways. The living armor of the Stegosaurs and Ankylosaurs represents one of the most remarkable evolutionary strategies in the history of life on Earth. These creatures were not just defenseless prey, but formidable giants that could withstand the might of the largest carnivores. Their armor was not only a physical shield, but also a testament to the power of evolution to create solutions to the challenges of survival. As the Jurassic period progressed, the armored dinosaurs would continue to dominate the landscape, shaping the ecosystems of the age of reptiles. Their legacy would live on through the fossil record, a testament to the ingenuity of nature in the face of predation. The rise of living armor was not just a response to danger, it was a revolution in the way that animals adapted to survive in a world filled with threats. In the end, the armored herbivores of the Jurassic period left an indelible mark on the history of life on Earth. Their legacy would continue to shape the way we understand evolution, survival, and the intricate relationships that exist between predators and prey. The rise of living armor was a defining moment in the history of the dinosaurs, a time when herbivores became fortresses on four legs, and the battle for survival reached new heights. In the Jurassic period, the rise of the dinosaurs brought about fierce competition and territorial disputes. As apex predators began to emerge and assert their dominance, the ecosystems of the Jurassic were teeming with life, and as herbivores grew to massive sizes, so did the predators that hunted them. Apex predators like ceratosaurs and megalosaurs began to rule over vast territories, their physical prowess and predatory instincts placing them at the top of the food chain. But the world of the Jurassic was not just one of domination by these fierce predators, it was also a world of constant conflict and rivalry. Territorial disputes between these apex predators were common, and their battles for control over valuable hunting grounds left a lasting mark on the landscape. Fossilized trackways and footprints found in ancient sedimentary layers provide a glimpse into the complex and often violent world of the Jurassic predators. These tracks, often preserved for millions of years, tell the stories of ancient confrontations and struggles for survival that shaped the dynamics of the Jurassic ecosystems. The emergence of apex predators. As the Jurassic period progressed, the landscapes of Earth became increasingly populated with a diverse array of large, formidable predators. Many of these creatures were carnivorous dinosaurs, evolving specialized adaptations for hunting and survival. Ceratosaurs and megalosaurs, two of the most iconic apex predators of the time, were the dominant carnivores of the Jurassic period. Ceratosaurs were a group of theropod dinosaurs that emerged in the late Triassic and continued to dominate throughout the early and middle Jurassic. These predators were characterized by their large size, powerful jaws, and sharp teeth. Some species, like Ceratosaurus nasicornis, grew to lengths of up to 20 feet, with muscular builds and a strong bite capable of taking down even the largest prey. Ceratosaurs were known for their distinctive horns and crests, which gave them a menacing appearance, and their sharp claws made them efficient hunters, capable of tackling large herbivores like sauropods and stegosaurs. Megalosaurs were another group of theropod predators that became highly successful in the Jurassic period. Megalosaurus, one of the earliest known large theropods, was a fierce and opportunistic predator. Growing up to 30 feet in length, megalosaurs had strong legs, sharp teeth, and powerful jaws. which made them well suited for taking down large herbivorous dinosaurs. They were among the first carnivorous dinosaurs to evolve significant predatory traits, such as binocular vision, which allowed them to judge distances more accurately during the hunt. Megalosaurs were also known for their agility, capable of swiftly pursuing prey, and their keen senses that made them formidable hunters in the Jurassic wilderness. These apex predators were not just solitary hunters. They played crucial roles in shaping the structure of their ecosystems. By preying on herbivores, they helped regulate populations and ensured that plant life did not become overgrazed. Without these predators, herbivores would have been left unchecked, potentially causing imbalances in the ecosystem. In this way, apex predators like ceratosaurs and megalosaurs were not just at the top of the food chain. They were key players in maintaining the stability of the Jurassic World. Territorial disputes and migratory behavior. Territorial disputes were a common feature of life in the Jurassic period. Apex predators like ceratosaurs and megalosaurs did not simply roam the landscape hunting for food. They also fought to establish and defend territories. These territories provided access to vital resources, such as food and shelter, and the ability to control these areas was critical for survival. One of the key factors that shaped territorial behavior in these predators was the availability of prey. As herbivores like sauropods, stegosaurs, and ankylosaurs roamed the landscape, they provided a steady food source for carnivorous dinosaurs. Apex predators often staked claims over the areas where these herbivores lived, and they would fiercely defend these territories from rival predators. Territorial boundaries were often marked by visual cues such as scratch marks on trees or deep impressions in the earth signaling to other predators that the area was already claimed. Sometimes, these boundaries were reinforced by vocalizations, roars, or growls, which acted as warnings to other carnivores. Conflicts between apex predators could be intense, as the battle for dominance often determined who would control a particular hunting ground. These territorial disputes could lead to direct confrontations, where powerful jaws and sharp claws were put to use in violent encounters. Some of these battles may have been fatal, with one predator overpowering the other and taking control of the territory. Other times, the conflict may have been resolved through displays of dominance, with predators using size, strength, and aggression to intimidate their rivals without engaging in physical combat. Territorial disputes were not only about physical encounters, they also played a significant role in shaping the migratory behavior of Jurassic animals. Herbivores, in particular, were forced to move between areas in search of new feeding grounds as apex predators defended their territories. The movement of herbivores across the landscape influenced the distribution of both predators and prey. These migratory patterns led to shifts in the locations of territorial boundaries, as predators adapted to the movement of their prey. Some apex predators may have followed the herds of herbivores as they migrated, while others may have remained within fixed territories, defending their hunting grounds year-round. Fossilized trackways and evidence of confrontations. Fossilized trackways offer invaluable insights into the behavior of Jurassic predators. These preserved footprints reveal the movement patterns and interactions of ancient animals, allowing scientists to piece together the story of territorial disputes and predatory encounters. Trackways can provide evidence of direct confrontations between predators, showing where different species crossed paths or engaged in battle. One of the most fascinating aspects of fossilized trackways is the way they can reveal the scale of the confrontations that took place in the Jurassic period. Many fossilized trackways show overlapping footprints, where the tracks of different species are found in close proximity to one another. These overlaps suggest that predators were aware of each other's presence and may have been engaging in territorial disputes or competing for the same prey. Some trackways show evidence of quick movements, suggesting that predators were engaged in fast-paced chases or confrontations, while others show signs of a more deliberate, slow-moving approach, indicating the possibility of stalking or ambush tactics. In some cases, the trackways reveal the outcomes of these encounters. Large, deep impressions left by the footprints of larger predators, like ceratosaurs and megalosaurs, may indicate that these animals had successfully dominated the area and were in control of their territory. Smaller tracks, meanwhile, might suggest that other predators had been forced to retreat or avoid conflict, illustrating the hierarchy that existed among the carnivorous dinosaurs. In certain areas, fossilized trackways reveal groups of predators moving together, suggesting that some species may have engaged in cooperative hunting or territorial defense. The importance of apex predators in shaping ecosystems. Apex predators played a crucial role in shaping the ecosystems of the Jurassic period. By regulating herbivore populations, these predators helped maintain balance within the ecosystem. Without apex predators, herbivore populations could have exploded, leading to overgrazing and depletion of plant life. This would have had a cascading effect on the entire ecosystem, as the loss of plant life would have disrupted the food chain and negatively impacted other species. The presence of apex predators also influenced the behavior of herbivores, forcing them to be more cautious and strategic in their movements. Herbivores were forced to stay alert, constantly on the lookout for potential threats. This pressure from predators likely led to the evolution of defensive adaptations in herbivores, such as armored bodies, sharp spines, and group behaviors designed to deter predators. Additionally, the constant territorial disputes among apex predators helped shape the landscape itself. The movement of these predators, as they roamed their territories and engaged in confrontations, may have created pathways through the landscape, influencing the distribution of plant life and shaping the way ecosystems evolved. In this way, apex predators were not just important as individuals, they were key architects of the Jurassic World, shaping the environment in which both predators and prey lived. Conclusion: the battle for dominance in the Jurassic period was a complex and dynamic process, driven by the emergence of apex predators like ceratosaurs and megalosaurs. These predators not only shaped their ecosystems through hunting and territorial disputes, but their actions also influenced the behavior and evolution of herbivores, creating a delicate balance between predator and prey. Fossilized trackways and footprints provide us with a glimpse into the confrontations and struggles for dominance that defined the Jurassic period, offering a unique window into the ancient world of the dinosaurs. The legacy of these apex predators continues to shape our understanding of the past, revealing the intricate and often violent relationships that formed the foundation of life in the Jurassic Age. The Age of Reptiles, spanning from the late Triassic to the end of the Cretaceous, was a time of extraordinary evolutionary innovation. Among the many traits that developed throughout this era, one of the most significant was the growth of intelligence in certain groups of dinosaurs. While the general public often associates dinosaurs with raw power, fierce battles, and towering sizes, there was another aspect to their evolution that deserves recognition: their growing cognitive abilities. In particular, the theropods and coelurosaurs, two groups of carnivorous dinosaurs, began to show signs of increasingly sophisticated behavior, hinting at a future connection to modern birds. In this chapter, we will explore the development of intelligence among dinosaurs, focusing on how encephalization, the growth of brain size relative to body size, was a key indicator of evolving cognitive capabilities. We will examine the social behavior and coordinated hunting strategies that emerged in theropods, as well as the possible connections between their brain structure and the intelligence observed in birds today. The evidence from the fossil record, including brain case imprints, fossilized bone structures, and behavioral patterns, provides a glimpse into the mental lives of these ancient creatures, helping us understand the rise of intelligence in the age of reptiles. The rise of encephalization. Encephalization refers to the increase in brain size relative to body size, a phenomenon that is often linked to the evolution of higher cognitive abilities. Throughout the history of life on Earth, certain animal groups have exhibited significant encephalization, with larger brains that enable more complex behaviors. In dinosaurs, this process occurred gradually, particularly in theropods and coelurosaurs, the groups most associated with increased intelligence. The relationship between brain size and intelligence is not straightforward. While larger brains are often associated with greater cognitive capabilities, the structure and complexity of the brain are just as important. In the case of dinosaurs, the size of the brain relative to their body mass can offer clues about the mental abilities they may have had. One of the first key indicators of increased encephalization in theropods can be seen in the size of their brain cases, which began to show signs of expansion and reorganization over time. Early theropods, such as coevolution, had relatively small brains in comparison to their body size. However, as theropods evolved, particularly in the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, brain size began to increase. This change was especially noticeable in coelurosaurs, a subgroup of theropods that includes some of the most well-known dinosaur species, such as velociraptor and dromaeosaurs. These dinosaurs exhibited a marked increase in brain size, particularly in areas of the brain responsible for processing sensory information, such as the optic lobes, and motor coordination, such as the cerebellum. One of the most remarkable examples of encephalization in dinosaurs is found in the Allosaurus group, which exhibited a larger brain relative to its body size compared to earlier theropods. Allosaurus had an advanced brain structure that allowed it to coordinate complex movements and interact with its environment more effectively. Its increased brain size was a likely factor in its success as an apex predator in the Jurassic period. The evolution of larger brains in theropods was likely driven by the demands of hunting, social interactions, and environmental challenges, all of which required increased cognitive abilities. As we move further into the Cretaceous, theropods like Troodon and dromaeosaurs exhibit even greater encephalization. Troodon, in particular, is often cited as one of the most intelligent dinosaurs due to its relatively large brain for its size. This species, which was small, bipedal, and carnivorous, possessed a brain that was proportionally larger than many other dinosaurs. Scientists have suggested that the advanced brain of Troodon may have been an adaptation for complex behaviors, such as problem-solving, tool use, and social coordination. These advancements in brain size and structure laid the foundation for the development of intelligence seen in modern birds. Evidence of social behavior. Social behavior is one of the most compelling signs of intelligence in the animal kingdom. Social animals must be able to communicate, cooperate, and work together in groups, all of which require cognitive abilities. The fossil record provides evidence that some dinosaurs, particularly theropods, exhibited social behaviors that suggest a level of intelligence beyond solitary hunting and survival. One of the earliest signs of social behavior in theropods can be seen in fossilized trackways and nesting sites. For instance, the discovery of oviraptor nests in close proximity to one another suggests that these dinosaurs may have lived in colonies or at least in close-knit groups. These nesting sites provide evidence that oviraptor exhibited parental care, as the nests contain evidence of both male and female individuals tending to their eggs. This behavior is an indicator of social cooperation, as it requires communication between individuals and the ability to work together for the benefit of the offspring. Fossilized evidence of pack behavior is also seen in some theropod species, such as dromaeosaurs and velociraptor. Fossilized remains of these dinosaurs have been found in what appear to be group formations, suggesting that they may have hunted in packs. The idea of pack hunting in dinosaurs has been a topic of debate for many years, but evidence from fossilized bone beds and trackways supports the idea that these animals engaged in coordinated hunting strategies. This would have required a high level of social intelligence, as each member of the group would need to communicate and coordinate with the others to successfully capture prey. In addition to hunting in packs, some theropods may have exhibited other forms of social behavior, such as group defense and territory protection. Fossilized remains of Allosaurus suggest that these dinosaurs may have traveled in small groups, defending their territories from rival predators. This social behavior would have required complex interactions and communication, further hinting at the growing intelligence of these species. Coordinated hunting and problem-solving. The ability to hunt cooperatively is a clear sign of intelligence. While many modern carnivores, such as lions and wolves, are known for their pack hunting behavior, The discovery of coordinated hunting in dinosaurs provides evidence that these ancient creatures were capable of complex strategies to capture prey. The fossilized remains of Velociraptor and other dromaeosaurs suggest that these dinosaurs may have engaged in sophisticated, coordinated hunts, using tactics such as ambush and strategic positioning to bring down larger prey. One of the most famous examples of potential coordinated hunting in dinosaurs comes from the discovery of Velociraptor fossils in association with the larger theropod Allosaurus. The fossilized remains suggest that these two species may have hunted together, with the smaller Velociraptor acting as a distraction while the larger Allosaurus delivered the fatal blow. This kind of teamwork requires a high level of problem-solving and communication, indicating that these dinosaurs possessed a certain degree of cognitive flexibility and intelligence. In addition to hunting in groups, theropods like Troodon may have also been capable of individual problem-solving. Troodon is thought to have had a highly developed brain that would have allowed it to engage in behaviors such as tool use and environmental manipulation. Some researchers have suggested that Troodon may have been capable of using its environment to its advantage, such as using rocks or sticks to obtain food or create shelter. These behaviors are indicative of advanced cognitive abilities that are often seen in birds and mammals. The link between theropods and birds. The evolution of intelligence in theropods is especially significant because these creatures are the ancestors of modern birds. As we look at the growth of brain size, social behavior, and coordinated hunting in theropods, it becomes clear that these behaviors laid the groundwork for the development of intelligence in birds. Modern birds, particularly corvids, crows, ravens, and magpies, and parrots, are known for their advanced problem-solving abilities, social structures, and tool use traits that are remarkably similar to those seen in their theropod ancestors. The connection between theropods and birds is well documented in the fossil record, with evidence of feathers, flight adaptations, and other bird-like traits appearing in theropods like Archaeopteryx. The brain structure of birds today shares many similarities with their theropod ancestors, particularly in areas responsible for cognitive function, such as the cerebellum and the forebrain. Modern birds, like the ravens and crows that have been shown to use tools and plan for the future, exhibit behaviors that echo those of their theropod ancestors, hinting at a long history of evolving intelligence. Conclusion. The growth of intelligence in theropods and coelurosaurs represents one of the most fascinating aspects of dinosaur evolution. Through increased encephalization, the development of social behaviors, and the emergence of coordinated hunting strategies, these dinosaurs demonstrated that cognitive abilities were just as important to survival as physical strength and speed. The evidence from the fossil record paints a picture of a world where intelligence was not solely the domain of mammals, but was also shared by some of the most iconic reptiles to ever walk the Earth. As we look at the growing cognitive abilities of theropods, it is clear that they were laying the groundwork for the intelligence seen in modern birds. The connection between dinosaurs and birds is one of the most remarkable evolutionary transitions in the history of life on Earth, and the intelligence of theropods provides a glimpse into the sophisticated behavior that would later be seen in their feathered descendants. The legacy of intelligence in the age of reptiles continues to shape our understanding of the evolution of cognition, offering a deeper insight into the ancient minds of the dinosaurs and their lasting influence on the modern animal kingdom. The age of reptiles was defined by the dominance of dinosaurs, but while these colossal creatures ruled the Earth, a much smaller and more inconspicuous group of animals existed in their shadows. These creatures were the early mammals and the diverse microfauna that lived alongside the dinosaurs, quietly evolving and laying the groundwork for the rise of mammals in the post-dinosaur world. Though they were small and often nocturnal, they played an essential role in the ecosystems of the Mesozoic, adapting to a world that was dominated by larger, more powerful reptiles. The first true mammals appeared during the late Triassic period, roughly 225 million years ago. These early mammals were tiny, rodent-like creatures that weighed only a few grams or less, and were characterized by features such as fur, live birth, and specialized teeth for chewing. These traits set them apart from the reptiles that dominated the world at the time. These early mammals were also mainly nocturnal, a trait that would become common among mammals throughout their evolutionary history. Nocturnality offered a significant advantage, allowing these small creatures to avoid predation by the larger, diurnal dinosaurs. By being active at night, they could hunt for food and explore their environment without direct competition with the more massive creatures that roamed the Earth during the day. These early mammals were not yet the large, complex creatures we associate with mammals today. They were small, insectivorous creatures that fed on insects, small invertebrates, and plants. Some of the earliest mammals, like Morganucodon, were primitive in appearance, with a body structure resembling that of modern-day shrews. Although small and simple, these mammals exhibited key features that set them apart from reptiles, such as a more efficient metabolism and the presence of a diaphragm, which allowed for more efficient breathing. They were quietly adapting to the ever-changing world, occupying ecological niches that the dinosaurs did not. As the Mesozoic progressed, mammals began to diversify, particularly during the early Cretaceous period. One of the most successful and widespread groups of mammals during this time were the multituberculates. These small, rodent-like mammals were one of the first to undergo significant diversification, becoming a dominant group in many ecosystems for millions of years. Multituberculates were characterized by their unique teeth, covered with multiple cusps, or tubercules, which allowed them to process a variety of plant material. This adaptation allowed them to thrive in a variety of environments, from forests to grasslands, as herbivores and detritivores, feeding on plants, seeds, and decaying organic matter. In addition to multituberculates, another group of mammals that flourished during the Mesozoic were the early insectivores. These small mammals were highly specialized for feeding on insects and other small invertebrates, with sharp teeth and claws for capturing their prey. Insectivores were an important part of the ecosystem, helping to control insect populations and contributing to the balance of life in the Mesozoic environment. While the dinosaurs grew larger and more specialized, mammals were undergoing their own evolutionary innovations. Though they remained small and often inconspicuous, they were refining their size, diet, and behavior to survive in a world dominated by much larger and more powerful creatures. Mammals occupied a variety of ecological niches, from insectivores to herbivores, and their ability to adapt and evolve in the shadows of the dinosaurs laid the foundation for the future rise of mammals after the extinction of the dinosaurs. Though the dinosaurs ruled the land, the mammals and microfauna that lived alongside them were highly specialized for survival in a world dominated by much larger and more powerful creatures. They were primarily nocturnal, which helped them avoid direct competition with the dinosaurs. They also became highly specialized in their diets and behaviors, allowing them to occupy ecological niches that the dinosaurs did not exploit. The mammals of the Mesozoic were largely insectivorous, feeding on the abundant invertebrates that flourished during this time. Some species, like multituberculates, evolved complex teeth that allowed them to efficiently process plant material, while others, like insectivores, developed sharp teeth and claws for capturing and consuming insects. The microfauna of the Mesozoic was also diverse and adaptable. Small reptiles, amphibians, and birds lived alongside the dinosaurs, often occupying secretive niches where they could avoid direct interactions with the larger, more dominant creatures. Many of these smaller creatures were nocturnal or secretive, feeding on insects, plants, and smaller animals. Like the mammals, they helped maintain the balance of ecosystems by controlling insect populations and contributing to the overall biodiversity of the time. The mammals and microfauna of the Mesozoic were vital to the ecosystems of their time, though they did not dominate the landscape like the dinosaurs. They helped control insect populations, disperse seeds, and contribute to the decomposition of organic matter. While they remained hidden beneath the shadows of the dinosaurs, their role in maintaining the balance of life cannot be overstated. Their persistence and adaptability were crucial to the eventual rise of mammals after the mass extinction that wiped out the dinosaurs. When the Cretaceous period came to a catastrophic end, the dinosaurs vanished in one of the most significant mass extinctions in the history of life on Earth. With the dinosaurs gone, the mammals that had long been living in their shadows were finally free to diversify. The extinction of the dinosaurs created a wealth of ecological opportunities for mammals, allowing them to evolve into the large, complex forms that would dominate the Earth in the post-dinosaur world. The small mammals that had survived the Mesozoic era were now able to occupy the vacant niches left by the extinct reptiles, leading to the rise of new species and the eventual explosion of mammalian diversity. The mammals and microfauna of the Mesozoic may have lived in the shadows of the dinosaurs, but they were quietly laying the groundwork for the future. Their adaptations to a world dominated by reptiles, their nocturnal habits, and their specialized diets allowed them to survive in a harsh and competitive environment. When the dinosaurs were wiped out, the mammals quickly adapted to fill the ecological gaps left behind, leading to the eventual dominance of mammals in the post-dinosaur world. The hidden survivors of the Mesozoic era played a crucial role in the evolution of life on Earth, and their legacy would shape the future of the planet for millions of years to come. Tectonic forces are one of the most powerful natural mechanisms shaping the Earth's surface and driving the course of evolution. When the supercontinent Pangaea began to break apart during the late Triassic and early Jurassic periods, it initiated one of the most dramatic shifts in the history of life on Earth. The separation of Pangaea into smaller landmasses led to the formation of continents as we know them today. This event would not only reshape the planet's physical landscape, but also have profound effects on the organisms living on it. As the continents drifted apart, the species that inhabited them became isolated from one another, leading to rapid evolutionary change, unique ecosystems, and the diversification of life in ways that had never been seen before. Pangaea, the giant landmass that existed around 300 million years ago, was a single supercontinent that contained almost all the land on Earth. It was surrounded by a vast ocean called Panthalassa, and its size meant that many species could spread across its expanse without encountering significant geographical barriers. However, this vast connected landmass also meant that species from different regions had to compete for resources in similar ecosystems, which could limit the pace of evolutionary change. The splitting of Pangaea, beginning in the late Triassic and continuing into the Jurassic period, changed all of this. As the continents began to drift apart, species found themselves isolated on separate land masses, forced to adapt to new environments with different climates, ecosystems, and challenges. This geographic isolation was the key factor that drove the rapid diversification of life during the Mesozoic era. As land masses split, species that were once part of the same population were now confined to smaller, isolated areas. With no opportunity for interbreeding between isolated populations, evolutionary pressures began to act more intensely. Each isolated group of species was forced to adapt to the unique environments of their new home, leading to speciation, the process by which new species form. Over millions of years, the land masses continued to shift and separate, with each isolated region developing its own distinct set of species. One of the most important consequences of continental drift was the emergence of unique biogeographical patterns. As the continents separated, different ecosystems were formed, each with its own set of environmental conditions. These conditions played a crucial role in determining which species could survive and thrive in each region. For example, when the continents of South America and Africa began to separate, the unique environmental conditions of each continent led to the development of distinct plant and animal species. South America, with its warm, wet climate and rich biodiversity, became home to a wide variety of unique species, including the giant sauropods that dominated its land. Africa, on the other hand, developed its own unique set of ecosystems, with different species evolving to survive in the dry, arid landscapes of the continent. The isolation of species also led to the evolution of entirely new forms of life. As the continents drifted apart, species found themselves in environments that were dramatically different from their original habitats. Species that were once adapted to temperate climates found themselves in tropical regions, while others had to adapt to colder, more arid environments. This forced many species to develop new adaptations, leading to the rise of novel traits and behaviors. For example, the sauropods that lived in South America during the late Jurassic period developed unique features, such as long necks and large bodies, which allowed them to feed on the tall trees that dominated the landscape. Similarly, the theropods that evolved in North America became highly specialized predators, developing sharp claws and teeth to catch and kill their prey. The tectonic activity that separated Pangaea also had a profound impact on the oceans. As the land masses moved apart, new sea routes were created, allowing marine life to spread across the planet. This led to the development of new marine ecosystems, with species adapted to different temperatures, salinities, and depths. For example, the opening of the Atlantic Ocean between North America and Europe allowed the first true sharks to evolve and spread across the oceans. Meanwhile, the separation of Australia from Antarctica allowed for the evolution of unique marine reptiles like the Ichthyosaurs and Plesiosaurs, which became the dominant predators of the seas during the Mesozoic. One of the most fascinating aspects of continental drift is how it shaped the distribution of species across the globe. Species that were once part of the same population became geographically separated, leading to the evolution of different forms of life in different regions. This is known as biogeography, the study of the geographic distribution of species. Biogeography is a key factor in understanding the process of evolution, as it reveals how species adapt to their environments and evolve in isolation. As the continents continued to drift, the patterns of species distribution became more complex, with some species evolving into entirely new forms, while others remained relatively unchanged for millions of years. The separation of Pangaea also had a significant impact on the evolution of early mammals. As the supercontinent broke apart, early mammals were confined to isolated regions, where they were forced to adapt to new environments. In South America, for example, early mammals developed into a diverse array of forms, ranging from small insectivorous species to larger herbivores. In Africa, early mammals evolved into a variety of carnivores and herbivores, adapting to the changing landscapes and climates of the continent. These early mammals were an important part of the evolving ecosystems, playing key roles in controlling insect populations and dispersing seeds. The tectonic forces that split Pangaea into smaller land masses not only reshaped the physical landscape of the planet, but also had profound effects on the evolution of life. The isolation of species, the creation of new ecosystems, and the development of unique biogeographical patterns all contributed to the rapid diversification of life during the Mesozoic era. As the continents drifted apart, life on Earth was forever changed, with species evolving in isolation and developing new traits and behaviors to survive in their unique environments. The legacy of continental drift continues to shape the planet today. The distribution of species across the continents is still influenced by the tectonic forces that began to separate Pangaea millions of years ago. The geological activity that continues to reshape the Earth's surface plays a crucial role in the evolution of life, creating new opportunities for species to evolve and adapt to changing environments. The process of continental drift is ongoing, with the Earth's tectonic plates slowly shifting and reshaping the planet's surface. As the continents continue to move, new species will emerge, and old ones will be pushed to the brink of extinction, continuing the cycle of evolution that has shaped life on Earth for millions of years. In conclusion, the splitting of Pangaea was one of the most significant events in the history of life on Earth. It not only reshaped the planet's physical landscape, but also drove the evolution of species by isolating populations and creating new ecosystems. The tectonic forces that split Pangaea set the stage for the rapid diversification of life, with species evolving in isolation and developing unique traits to survive in their new environments. This event played a key role in the rise of the dinosaurs, the evolution of early mammals, and the development of the Earth's diverse ecosystems. The legacy of continental drift continues to influence the world today, shaping the distribution of species and the course of evolution for millions of years to come. Pterosaurs, the first vertebrates to take to the skies, dominated the skies during the Mesozoic era. These flying reptiles evolved in a wide range of forms, from small species no larger than a sparrow to massive creatures with wingspans as vast as a giraffe's height. Their ability to soar through the air marked a profound shift in the ecological balance of the Earth. As they evolved, pterosaurs developed a number of specialized adaptations that allowed them to become the rulers of the sky, including cranial crests, hollow bones, and the ability to perform airborne acrobatics. However, as they grew in size and numbers, competition in the skies intensified, particularly with the emergence of the first feathered gliders, which would soon challenge pterosaurs for aerial dominance. The earliest pterosaurs appeared during the late Triassic period, and by the time the Jurassic period began, they had already begun to diversify into numerous forms. Their evolutionary adaptations were driven by the need to exploit the open skies, a vast, unclaimed frontier. Pterosaurs evolved to take advantage of this new ecological niche, developing wings made of a membrane of skin and muscle, supported by an elongated fourth finger. These wings were lightweight yet incredibly strong, allowing pterosaurs to glide and soar across vast distances. Their hollow bones, a feature they shared with dinosaurs, helped reduce the weight of their bodies, making flight more energy efficient and helping them stay aloft for longer periods of time. The cranial crests that adorned many pterosaurs were some of their most striking features. These crests, which varied in shape and size depending on the species, were likely used for a variety of purposes. In some species, they may have played a role in communication, helping individuals of the same species identify each other from a distance. In others, the crests may have been used in mating displays, with the size and shape of the crest signaling the fitness of an individual. These elaborate crests, combined with the sleek, aerodynamic bodies of pterosaurs, made them some of the most visually striking creatures of their time. Despite their impressive flight abilities, pterosaurs were not immune to competition. During the Jurassic period, new contenders entered the skies. The first feathered gliders, ancestors of modern birds, began to evolve around the same time pterosaurs were reaching their peak. These early birds were smaller than pterosaurs and lacked the massive wingspans that characterized the larger pterosaur species. But they had one crucial advantage: feathers. Feathers provided them with superior control over flight, enabling them to perform complex maneuvers that were beyond the capabilities of pterosaurs. While pterosaurs relied on their large wings to soar and glide, early birds could flap their wings, giving them greater maneuverability and agility in the air. As pterosaurs continued to evolve, they developed even more specialized adaptations. Some species became larger, with wingspans exceeding 30 feet, while others remained small and agile, no larger than a modern sparrow. These smaller pterosaurs were particularly adept at exploiting ecological niches in the skies, feeding on insects, fish, and small vertebrates. Larger species, on the other hand, often hunted larger prey, such as fish or even marine reptiles. The diversity of pterosaurs in terms of size and diet was a testament to their ability to exploit a wide range of ecological opportunities. Some of the most iconic pterosaurs of the era, like Pteranodon and Quetzalcoatlus, became massive aerial predators. Pteranodon, with its enormous wingspan, was one of the largest pterosaurs, reaching up to 33 feet, from wingtip to wingtip. Its long, slender beak was likely adapted for skimming the surface of the water to catch fish, while its long, toothless jaw helped it scoop up prey without the need for teeth. Quetzalcoatlus, another giant pterosaur, had a wingspan that stretched up to 36 feet, making it one of the largest flying animals to ever live. Its long neck and large head gave it an appearance that was both awe-inspiring and fearsome, and its large size likely allowed it to dominate the skies. However, it wasn't just the giant pterosaurs that defined the era. Smaller species, such as the nimble Rhamphorhynchus, were also important players in the ecosystem. These smaller pterosaurs often no bigger than a crow, were incredibly agile and fast, using their small size and quick movements to catch insects and fish. Rhamphorhynchus, for example, had a long, sharp beak that allowed it to catch fish while in flight, and its relatively short wings allowed it to perform sharp turns and sudden maneuvers, making it a formidable predator in its own right. The rise of pterosaurs also marked a significant shift in the dynamics of ecosystems. As the rulers of the skies, pterosaurs were top predators, controlling the aerial food chains. They hunted fish, small vertebrates, and even other flying creatures. However, as they expanded their ecological reach, they also faced increasing competition, particularly from the growing diversity of dinosaurs. While pterosaurs ruled the skies, dinosaurs were becoming the dominant terrestrial predators, and the two groups would often compete for food resources. Some pterosaurs, like Pteranodon, may have had to compete with large theropods for fish, while others, like Quetzalcoatlus, might have clashed with larger herbivores for territory and prey. In addition to competition from dinosaurs, pterosaurs also had to contend with environmental challenges. As the climate changed and ecosystems shifted throughout the Mesozoic era, the habitats that pterosaurs had once thrived in began to change. New environments and evolving ecosystems created both challenges and opportunities. The emergence of new food sources and the development of new flight strategies would ultimately determine which species of pterosaurs could survive and which would go extinct. While the pterosaurs were at their peak during the Jurassic period, the rise of birds would eventually mark the beginning of the end for their reign in the skies. As birds evolved from small feathered dinosaurs, they gained the ability to fly with greater precision and agility. Their feathers provided them with better lift and control, and their smaller size allowed them to adapt to a variety of ecological niches. Over time, birds would dominate the skies, leaving pterosaurs to fade into history. However, the legacy of pterosaurs lives on in modern birds, who are the direct descendants of these ancient flying reptiles. The history of pterosaurs is a testament to the power of evolution and adaptation. From their small beginnings in the late Triassic to their dominance in the skies during the Jurassic period, pterosaurs evolved into a diverse and highly specialized group of animals. Their cranial crests, hollow bones, and incredible flight abilities made them the rulers of the sky, and their legacy continues to inspire awe and fascination to this day. The Earth has always been a dynamic and unpredictable place, and during the age of the dinosaurs, climate shifts played a significant role in shaping life on the planet. Dramatic changes in the climate, monsoons, droughts, and intense heat waves were regular occurrences, forcing the creatures of the time to adapt or perish. These climate fluctuations were driven by tectonic activity, volcanic eruptions, and changes in atmospheric composition, and they had far-reaching effects on ecosystems. While the climate could be a powerful force for change, it also provided an opportunity for species to evolve and thrive. Those that could adapt to the changing world found new ways to survive, while those that couldn't were left behind, vanishing from the fossil record. One of the most significant factors in these climate shifts was the changing levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide. High concentrations of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere created a greenhouse effect, which resulted in a warmer climate. This warmer climate was not constant, though. It fluctuated over time, with periods of intense heat followed by cooling phases. These temperature swings would have affected not only the physical environment, but also the behaviors and survival strategies of the organisms that lived during this time. For many species, the ability to cope with these shifts determined their success or failure. As the climate warmed, ecosystems underwent significant changes. In the late Jurassic period, the world experienced one of its warmest phases, with average temperatures rising above what most life forms had previously experienced. Warm climates meant that many areas of the planet saw a dramatic shift in vegetation, with tropical plants becoming more widespread and forests expanding. However, in other regions, prolonged periods of drought or intense heat waves would have dramatically changed the availability of food and water, putting pressure on herbivores and predators alike. The way animals adapted to these changing conditions varied greatly. For herbivores, the availability of food was one of the most pressing concerns. Large plant-eating dinosaurs like sauropods had to evolve strategies to deal with fluctuations in vegetation. Some species were able to migrate across vast distances in search of new food sources, while others adapted by developing behaviors or physical traits that allowed them to survive in less favorable conditions. For example, certain dinosaurs developed more efficient ways of digesting plant matter, allowing them to extract more nutrients from the same amount of food. This adaptation was especially important during times when food was scarce. Predators, too, faced their own set of challenges. In a changing world, they had to adapt not only to shifting prey populations, but also to the environmental conditions that affected their ability to hunt. Some species of theropods, like Allosaurus and Ceratosaurus, were equipped with sharp teeth and claws that helped them capture prey, but their hunting strategies had to evolve to match the changing availability of food. Some predators might have become more opportunistic, taking advantage of smaller prey that had fewer defenses, while others may have adjusted their hunting techniques to become more efficient in capturing fast-moving prey. Certain predators may have even developed new ways of communicating and coordinating with each other, allowing them to hunt in packs and increase their chances of success. Migration was another key adaptation to climate shifts. Many species of dinosaurs, including herbivores and predators, likely migrated seasonally or in response to environmental changes. The movement of species across the landscape allowed them to take advantage of new resources and find more hospitable areas during periods of extreme heat or drought. For example, herbivorous dinosaurs that relied on lush vegetation would have followed the seasonal cycles of plant growth, moving to areas where food was abundant. Similarly, predators may have followed the migrations of their prey, adjusting their hunting grounds based on the availability of food. The ability to regulate body temperature and conserve water was also crucial for survival during extreme climate events. Some dinosaurs, like many modern reptiles, were likely ectothermic, meaning they relied on external sources of heat to regulate their body temperature. During periods of extreme heat, these dinosaurs may have spent more time in shaded areas or sought refuge in cooler environments to avoid overheating. Others may have developed specialized adaptations to help them conserve water in dry conditions, such as storing water in specialized organs or modifying their behavior to reduce the need for water. While many species of dinosaurs adapted successfully to these changing conditions, not all were so fortunate. Species that were unable to cope with the dramatic shifts in climate and ecosystem dynamics went extinct, leaving only their fossils behind. These extinctions occurred over millions of years, with some species disappearing slowly over time and others vanishing rapidly in response to catastrophic climate events. The fossil record provides evidence of the species that failed to adapt, offering us a glimpse into the fragile nature of life on Earth. These extinctions left gaps in the ecosystems, creating opportunities for new species to rise and fill the voids left by those that had vanished. One of the most famous examples of mass extinction caused by environmental stress occurred at the end of the Permian period, when an enormous climate shift wiped out up to 90% of life on Earth. This catastrophic event, likely caused by massive volcanic eruptions, drastically altered the climate and caused a dramatic drop in oxygen levels. The extinction of so many species left room for the survivors to expand and evolve. This event set the stage for the rise of the dinosaurs, as the surviving archosaurs were able to exploit the empty ecological niches left behind by the extinction event. Climate shifts also played a crucial role in the rise of mammals. After the dinosaurs went extinct at the end of the Cretaceous, mammals took advantage of the empty ecological space and began to diversify rapidly. With the dinosaurs gone, mammals were able to adapt to a wide range of environments, eventually leading to the evolution of many of the forms we recognize today. The ability of mammals to regulate their body temperature and adapt to changing climates was one of the key factors in their survival and success in the post-dinosaur world. The survival of species during climate shifts ultimately comes down to one key factor: adaptability. Those species that could adjust to the changing world, whether through migration, behavioral changes, or physical adaptations thrived and evolved. Those that couldn't, whether due to a lack of resources, slow adaptation, or environmental pressures, faded into extinction. This pattern of survival and extinction is one that has been repeated throughout the history of life on Earth, from the age of the dinosaurs to the present day. Today, we are witnessing another shift in climate on a global scale. The challenges faced by life on Earth today are not unlike those faced by the creatures of the Jurassic period. As climate change accelerates, species around the world must adapt to new conditions, or they risk disappearing forever. The story of how life adapted to a changing world during the age of dinosaurs serves as a reminder of the resilience of life, as well as the fragility of ecosystems in the face of dramatic change. It also underscores the importance of understanding the natural world and the forces that shape it, so that we can better predict and manage the challenges of the future. As the Jurassic period transitioned into the Cretaceous, the landscape of the Earth became increasingly dominated by strange and powerful creatures. Among these, the rise of horned predators marked a new chapter in the evolutionary arms race. Abelisaurs and ceratosaurs, two groups of theropod dinosaurs, began to evolve bizarre and distinctive skull features that set them apart from their predecessors. These features were not just ornamental. They were vital adaptations that enabled these apex predators to survive and dominate in their respective ecosystems. The most striking feature of the horned predators was their skull structure. Abelisaurs and ceratosaurs developed thick, heavily sculpted skulls with unique ridges, horns, and even bony structures that made them stand out from other carnivores of the time. These skulls were not only intimidating to potential prey, but also served as tools for effective hunting. The bony ridges and horns may have been used in combat with other predators or rivals, while also providing protection for vulnerable areas of the skull during fights or struggles with prey. The size and shape of these skulls were specialized for the specific challenges these predators faced in their environments, whether it was hunting large prey or defending territory against other apex predators. One of the key adaptations that distinguished abelisaurs and ceratosaurs from earlier theropods was the reduction of their forelimbs. Unlike the massive, grasping claws of earlier theropods like Allosaurus, the forelimbs of these horned predators were smaller and less developed. This reduction in limb size was likely due to a shift in hunting strategy. Rather than relying on their forelimbs to capture and hold on to prey, these predators had evolved powerful jaws and necks that allowed them to deliver crushing bites. The strong neck muscles and jaws were perfect for grasping and immobilizing prey, with the ability to tear through flesh with terrifying efficiency. This shift in hunting mechanics reflects an adaptation to a new way of life, focusing more on sheer jaw strength and neck power rather than dexterous forelimbs. The reduced forelimbs of these horned predators were not a disadvantage, but rather a sign of evolutionary specialization. In fact, many of these creatures had some of the most powerful jaws in the entire dinosaur kingdom. Ceratosaurs, in particular, had razor-sharp teeth and incredibly strong bite forces, allowing them to take down large herbivores and other prey with ease. The bony ridges on their skulls and the powerful musculature of their necks allowed them to exert tremendous pressure when they bit into their prey, making them formidable hunters capable of bringing down even the most dangerous animals of the time. The evolution of these horned predators was also influenced by the biogeographical distribution of species during the Cretaceous period. Different regions of the world hosted distinct apex predators, each adapted to their own specific environments and prey. For example, abelisaurs, found primarily in the southern continents, evolved in isolation after the breakup of Pangaea. The isolation of their environment allowed them to develop unique features, such as the distinctive ridged skulls and reduced forelimbs. In contrast, ceratosaurs were found in more varied regions, including parts of what is now North America and Europe. This geographical distribution led to the development of different forms of horned predators, each adapted to the unique ecosystems they inhabited. The evidence for region-specific apex predators is most clearly seen in the fossil record. The diversity of theropod predators found across the globe suggests that different regions supported their own dominant predators, each with specialized features. In South America, where abelisaurs roamed, the warm and dry climate fostered the evolution of creatures with powerful bites and tough, armored bodies. In other regions, ceratosaurs flourished, taking advantage of different prey species and environments. These predators were not simply the biggest and strongest. They were also the best adapted to their local ecosystems, making them the true rulers of their domains. The evolution of horned predators also had profound effects on the ecosystems they inhabited, as apex predators, abelisaurs and ceratosaurs helped shape the structure of the food chain. Their hunting activities controlled herbivore populations, preventing any one species from becoming too dominant. By keeping herbivore numbers in check, they allowed plant life to thrive and supported the continued evolution of other species within the ecosystem. The presence of these predators also influenced the behavior and evolution of their prey. Herbivores would have had to evolve new strategies to evade these predators, such as developing better camouflage, faster speeds, or more defensive adaptations like armor or horns of their own. The constant struggle between predator and prey would have driven the ongoing evolutionary arms race, with each group constantly adapting to outwit or overpower the other. The bizarre skull features of abelisaurs and ceratosaurs also provide valuable insights into the nature of these creatures' behavior and interactions. The skulls of these predators suggest that they were likely involved in intense territorial disputes and combat with rivals. The horns and bony ridges could have been used in display behaviors or in physical confrontations. These features may have served as a signal to other predators, a way of asserting dominance over a particular territory or social group. In many ways, these skull features could be seen as a form of evolutionary signaling, where the predators used their appearance to communicate strength and aggression to other members of their species. The evolution of these horned predators also tells a story of how the ecosystems of the Cretaceous period were constantly changing. As the continents drifted and new environments emerged, species had to adapt to survive. The rise of abelisaurs and ceratosaurs is just one example of how life on Earth was shaped by these changing environments. As these creatures evolved to become the dominant predators of their time, they helped define the balance of life on the planet. Their powerful jaws, strange skull features, and territorial behaviors were all part of a larger evolutionary strategy that allowed them to thrive in a world filled with competition and danger. Today, the fossils of these horned predators provide us with a glimpse into a long-lost world where strange creatures ruled the Earth. The evidence left behind in the fossil record tells the story of how these predators adapted to their environments and became the apex hunters of their time. Their bizarre skulls and powerful jaws remind us of the extraordinary diversity of life that once flourished on Earth, and how each species, no matter how strange or unusual, played a crucial role in shaping the world we know today. As the Earth has continued to evolve, it has left behind a rich tapestry of fossils that allow us to peer into the distant past. These fossils are the remnants of once-living organisms, preserved in the layers of sedimentary rock. From the Solnhofen limestone to the Morrison Formation, paleontologists have uncovered a wealth of fossils that help them piece together the ecosystems that existed millions of years ago. Each fragment, each bone, tells a unique story, offering a glimpse into a time long gone. Through their careful work, paleontologists have managed to reconstruct the ancient landscapes and ecosystems in which these creatures lived. The Solnhofen limestone, located in what is now southern Germany, is one of the most famous fossil sites in the world. It is known for its extraordinary preservation of fossils, many of which are exquisitely detailed. Here, in the fine-grained limestone, soft-bodied creatures like jellyfish, squids, and even early birds have been preserved in stunning detail. This remarkable preservation is due to the unique conditions of the site. The area was once a lagoon that experienced low oxygen levels, which helped prevent decomposition and allowed for the preservation of even the most delicate organisms. The fossils found in the Solnhofen limestone provide us with an unparalleled window into the late Jurassic period, offering detailed insights into the lives of prehistoric creatures that roamed the Earth during that time. Paleontologists who work with these fossils are not just scientists examining individual bones, they are storytellers, piecing together the narratives of ancient life. By studying the fossils found in places like the Solnhofen limestone, they can learn about the behavior, diet, and environments of the creatures that lived millions of years ago. For example, the famous Archaeopteryx, often considered the first bird, was discovered in the Solnhofen limestone. Its well-preserved fossils have provided valuable clues about the transition from dinosaurs to birds, helping paleontologists understand how feathers evolved and how flight developed in these ancient creatures. In addition to soft-bodied creatures and early birds, the Solnhofen limestone has also yielded the remains of large reptiles, including marine reptiles and dinosaurs. These fossils provide crucial information about the ecosystems of the time, showing how different species interacted with each other and their environments. For example, fossilized tracks and footprints have been discovered alongside body fossils, revealing how dinosaurs moved across the landscape and how different species coexisted. The Solnhofen limestone is a treasure trove of information that allows paleontologists to reconstruct the ancient world in ways that would otherwise be impossible. Moving westward across the globe, the Morrison Formation in North America offers another key site for understanding prehistoric ecosystems. This formation, which spans parts of the western United States, is famous for its abundance of dinosaur fossils, including some of the most iconic species from the late Jurassic period. The Morrison Formation was once a vast floodplain, with rivers, lakes, and forests creating a rich and diverse ecosystem. As the dinosaurs lived, died, and were preserved in the sediment, they left behind a wealth of fossils that have been uncovered by paleontologists over the years. The fossils found in the Morrison Formation have helped scientists reconstruct the environment in which these dinosaurs lived. The area was home to some of the largest dinosaurs ever to walk the Earth, including the massive sauropods like Apatosaurus and Brachiosaurus, as well as the fearsome predators like Allosaurus. These fossils have revealed not only the size and shape of these creatures, but also their behaviors and interactions. For example, evidence of bone beds, where multiple dinosaur skeletons are found together, suggests that some species may have traveled in herds or lived in social groups. This finding has opened new doors in our understanding of dinosaur behavior, challenging the long-standing belief that dinosaurs were solitary creatures. In addition to the well-known dinosaurs, the Morrison Formation has also yielded a wide variety of other prehistoric life, including early mammals, reptiles, and amphibians. These smaller creatures played important roles in the ecosystems of the time, contributing to the complex web of life that existed alongside the giants. By studying the fossils of these lesser-known species, paleontologists have been able to gain a more complete picture of the ancient ecosystems, showing how life on Earth was interconnected in ways that we might not have previously imagined. The process of reconstructing ancient ecosystems from fossils is a delicate and meticulous one. Paleontologists must carefully analyze each fossil to determine not only what species it belongs to, but also what it can tell us about the animal's life. For example, the wear patterns on teeth can reveal the diet of a particular species, while the shape of bones can provide insights into how the animal moved and behaved. Sometimes, even the smallest fragments of fossils, such as a single tooth or a tiny bone, can provide valuable clues about the animal's life and environment. But fossils don't just tell us about individual species. They also reveal how ecosystems evolved over time. By examining the layers of rock in which fossils are found, paleontologists can reconstruct the climate and environmental conditions of different periods in Earth's history. For example, fossils found in the Solnhofen limestone indicate that the late Jurassic was a time of warm, shallow seas and lush coastal environments, while fossils from the Morrison Formation suggest a more temperate climate with dense forests and wetlands. These environmental changes had profound impacts on the creatures that lived during these times, influencing their behaviors, diets, and interactions with each other. Perhaps one of the most remarkable aspects of fossils is how they allow us to hear the voices of ancient life. Though we cannot hear the sounds that these creatures made, the fossils they left behind tell their own stories. The way in which animals interacted with their environments, hunted for food, and competed with other species is all encoded in the fossil record. For example, fossilized footprints and trackways reveal the movement of animals across the landscape, offering clues about their behavior and how they used the environment. Fossilized nests and eggs provide evidence of reproductive strategies and social behaviors, showing how some species cared for their young while others left them to fend for themselves. Each fossil is a chapter in a much larger story, and the more fossils that are discovered, the more complete the picture becomes. Paleontologists are constantly working to piece together the jigsaw puzzle of ancient life, and with each new discovery, we get closer to understanding the true nature of the world that existed long before us. The fossils from places like the Solnhofen limestone and the Morrison Formation are invaluable treasures, not just for their scientific value, but for the stories they tell about life on Earth millions of years ago. Each fossil, whether it's a tiny fragment or a complete skeleton, carries within it a voice from the past, a voice that continues to speak to us, offering insights into the mysteries of the ancient world. In the vast expanse of the Jurassic period, life wasn't only about survival, but also about the continuation of species. As dinosaurs roamed the Earth, they began to develop complex reproductive behaviors, which laid the foundation for the behaviors seen in birds today. Fossilized nesting sites and evidence of parenting offer a glimpse into this crucial aspect of dinosaur life: how they reproduced, how they cared for their young, and how these behaviors helped ensure the survival of their species. The discovery of nesting sites in the Jurassic is one of the most revealing pieces of evidence that has emerged in paleontology. These sites, some of which are exceptionally well preserved, provide valuable insights into how dinosaurs gave birth to the next generation. Some species, such as the herbivorous sauropods, may have laid their eggs in large communal nesting sites, much like modern reptiles. These nests were likely dug into the ground, where the eggs would be incubated by the warmth of the earth. However, as we examine the evidence more closely, it becomes clear that not all dinosaur species followed this simple nesting behavior. Some, particularly theropods, exhibited more advanced forms of reproduction and parental care. One of the most fascinating findings is the evidence that some species may have guarded their nests and young. Fossilized nests of theropod dinosaurs, such as oviraptorids, have shown signs of parental involvement in the care of their eggs and hatchlings. These species, known for their bird-like features, likely exhibited some form of brooding behavior, similar to modern birds. In some cases, fossilized evidence suggests that adult dinosaurs may have even stood guard over their nests, protecting their eggs from predators and ensuring the safety of their offspring. The discovery of these nesting sites with adult remains nearby hints at the possibility that some dinosaurs had developed a form of parenting that was not only focused on reproduction, but also on the well-being of the next Procesaur generation. This behavior marked an important shift in the evolutionary timeline, as it demonstrated a level of social interaction and care for offspring that was previously believed to be exclusive to mammals and birds. The notion that dinosaurs, particularly theropods, may have nurtured their young opens a new chapter in the understanding of dinosaur behavior. These early forms of parental care laid the groundwork for more complex social structures that would evolve in later species, especially the birds, which are the direct descendants of dinosaurs. The significance of these findings extends beyond just the behavior of individual species. They also provide clues about the evolutionary roots of modern avian parenting. The care shown by some dinosaurs for their young reflects an early foundation of nurturing behavior that would later evolve into the sophisticated parenting strategies seen in birds today. Modern birds are known for their protective nesting behaviors, from incubating eggs to feeding and protecting their chicks. These behaviors, while more advanced in today's species, can trace their roots back to the Jurassic period when dinosaurs began to experiment with different methods of ensuring the survival of their offspring. The development of these parental behaviors may have provided certain species with an evolutionary advantage. By protecting their young and ensuring their survival, these dinosaurs increased the likelihood of passing on their genes to the next generation. This parental investment could have contributed to the survival and diversification of certain species during the Jurassic period. As some dinosaurs began to care for their young, they were able to create a safer environment for their offspring, one where they could grow and develop before venturing out into the dangers of the world. Further evidence of complex reproductive behavior can be found in the fossilized remains of eggs and nests themselves. Paleontologists have discovered eggs with embryos preserved inside, providing a rare look at the development of dinosaurs before they hatched. These findings not only shed light on the reproductive cycle of ancient creatures, but also give us clues about how these dinosaurs cared for their young once they hatched. Some species, like the theropods, may have exhibited brooding behaviors, sitting on their eggs to keep them warm and protect them from the elements, while others may have abandoned their nests after laying eggs, leaving them to incubate on their own. These variations in reproductive strategies suggest that dinosaurs, like modern animals, employed a range of tactics to ensure the survival of their species. The complexity of these behaviors also extends to the communication between parents and offspring. While it's difficult to know exactly how dinosaurs communicated, some paleontologists speculate that they may have used vocalizations, body language, or even touch to communicate with their young. For example, the presence of nests in close proximity to adult remains suggests that there may have been some form of interaction between parent and offspring, possibly involving protection or feeding. These interactions would have been crucial for the survival of the young dinosaurs, helping them to grow and develop in a world full of predators and environmental challenges. The evolutionary roots of avian parenting can also be seen in the fossilized remains of early birds that evolved from theropod dinosaurs. These early birds exhibited many of the same behaviors seen in their dinosaur ancestors, including the care and protection of their eggs and young. Over time, these behaviors became more refined and specialized as birds adapted to different environments and ecological niches. However, the basic principles of parenting, protecting eggs, nurturing young, and ensuring their survival were already established during the Jurassic period, long before modern birds emerged. In conclusion, the Jurassic period was a time of significant evolutionary change, not only in terms of size and diversity, but also in the development of complex behaviors. The evidence of nesting sites, parental care, and social behaviors in dinosaurs reveals that some species had already begun to experiment with ways of ensuring the survival of their young. These early forms of parental investment laid the foundation for the sophisticated parenting strategies seen in birds today. By studying these ancient behaviors, paleontologists are able to gain a deeper understanding of the evolutionary roots of modern avian parenting, revealing a link between the past and the present that is as old as the dinosaurs themselves. Throughout the Jurassic period, the Earth was a land of constant change and upheaval. Volcanic activity played a major role in shaping the environment, both literally and biologically. Massive eruptions, driven by the Earth's shifting tectonic plates, would spew molten rock, ash, and gases into the atmosphere, altering the landscape and atmosphere in dramatic ways. These volcanic events were far from isolated incidents. They were frequent and widespread, contributing to both the creation and destruction of life in equal measure. The volcanic eruptions during this period were fueled by the ongoing breakup of Pangaea, the supercontinent that once unified nearly all of the Earth's land masses. As the continents began to drift apart, magma from the Earth's mantle found new pathways to the surface, leading to the formation of vast volcanic regions known as large igneous provinces. These provinces, which spanned hundreds of thousands of square kilometers, unleashed enormous amounts of volcanic material, lava, ash, and gases into the atmosphere. In some instances, these eruptions were so large that they could be seen from space, their plumes of smoke and ash rising high into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight and altering the global climate. The eruptions themselves were incredibly destructive, but their effects didn't stop with the immediate explosion. The gases released during these events, particularly carbon dioxide, CO2s, and sulfur dioxide, SO2s, had lasting impacts on the atmosphere and climate. CO2, a potent greenhouse gas, contributed to warming the planet, while sulfur dioxide, when mixed with water vapor, created acid rain that would fall to the Earth's surface, harming both plant and animal life. These volcanic events were responsible for many of the mini-extinctions that occurred throughout the Jurassic period, particularly during times of intense volcanic activity. The eruptions wiped out ecosystems, altering the habitats of countless species, forcing them to adapt or perish. But even as volcanoes destroyed life, they also created new opportunities for life to thrive. The ash and lava from volcanic eruptions created fertile soil, rich in nutrients, that would nourish new plant life. This process of destruction and renewal, often referred to as a reset in nature, allowed for new species to emerge and fill ecological niches left vacant by those that had perished. Some species were able to adapt to the changing conditions brought about by volcanic activity, while others, unable to keep pace with the rapidly changing environment, vanished. Over time, the landscape was reshaped, with new mountain ranges and valleys formed by the relentless force of volcanic activity. These new environments offered fresh opportunities for life to evolve, leading to the rise of new species and ecosystems. The volcanic activity of the Jurassic period also had a profound effect on the climate. The ash clouds released during eruptions blocked sunlight, leading to a temporary cooling of the planet, a phenomenon known as volcanic winter. This brief period of cooling could have led to the collapse of food chains, as photosynthesis was reduced, making it harder for plants to grow. In response to these challenges, many species were forced to evolve new strategies for survival. Herbivores adapted by evolving different types of plant-eating behaviors, while carnivores adjusted their hunting strategies to account for changing prey populations. The ability to adapt quickly to these environmental shifts was crucial for survival during the tumultuous times of volcanic upheaval. The eruptions also had a lasting effect on the atmosphere and the composition of gases in the air. With the release of vast quantities of CO2, the greenhouse effect was intensified, leading to longer-term warming trends. This warming, coupled with the nutrient-rich volcanic ash in the soil, helped fuel the explosive growth of plants during the Jurassic period. Ferns, cycads, and conifers dominated the landscape, providing a stable food source for herbivorous dinosaurs and helping to sustain the growing populations of plant-eaters and predators alike. These plants flourished in the rich volcanic soils, which provided the nutrients needed for their rapid growth. This, in turn, fed the herbivores, which were the primary food source for the carnivorous dinosaurs, leading to a boom in animal populations. In the oceans, volcanic activity also played a significant role in shaping marine life. The release of sulfur gases and minerals into the seas led to changes in ocean chemistry, affecting marine ecosystems. Marine reptiles like Ichthyosaurs and Plesiosaurs adapted to these changes, evolving new strategies to survive in the ever-changing oceanic environment. Volcanic eruptions also triggered shifts in ocean currents, which, in turn, affected the distribution of marine species and nutrients, further influencing the dynamics of life in the oceans. Volcanic activity also had an important impact on the evolution of life on land. As the Earth's surface was reshaped by the eruptions, new habitats were created, providing opportunities for species to evolve in response to the changing environment. The hot, barren landscapes created by volcanic eruptions eventually gave way to lush, fertile environments as plant life took root in the rich soils. These new environments provided the perfect setting for the diversification of dinosaurs and other life forms. The creation of mountain ranges, valleys, and basins by volcanic activity altered migration patterns, while the resulting climate shifts affected the development of various species. The effects of volcanic eruptions were not limited to immediate environmental changes. They also shaped the evolutionary trajectory of life on Earth. Species that were able to adapt to the shifting climate, volcanic winters, and changing landscapes were more likely to survive and thrive. Those that could not keep up with the rapid pace of change faced extinction. In many ways, Volcanic activity acted as a driving force for evolution, pushing species to adapt quickly or perish. It was a reminder of the raw power of the planet and the ever-changing nature of life on Earth. In conclusion, volcanic eruptions during the Jurassic period were not just destructive forces, they were agents of change, reshaping the planet and driving the evolution of life. Through their eruption, the Earth was periodically reset, with ecosystems wiped out and new species rising to fill the void. The gases released during these eruptions altered the atmosphere, driving climate shifts that influenced the development of life both on land and in the oceans. The fertile soils created by volcanic ash nurtured the growth of new plant life, which in turn supported the flourishing of herbivores, and by extension, carnivores. Volcanic activity played a key role in the dramatic changes that unfolded during the Jurassic period, and its legacy is still felt in the ecosystems of today. The Jurassic period marked an extraordinary chapter in the history of life on Earth, particularly with the rise of the colossal giants that roamed the land. Among the most astonishing creatures of this time were the massive sauropod Sultrosaurus, Diplodocus, and Camarasaurus, whose sheer size was unlike anything seen before. These towering giants were the result of a series of evolutionary innovations that allowed them to achieve unprecedented proportions, dominating the landscape with their sheer presence. The evolution of these ultra-giants began with a combination of factors, including changes in the environment, the availability of resources, and the development of specialized adaptations. One of the key factors in the development of these gigantic creatures was the abundance of plant life during the Jurassic period. Lush forests, dense with cycads, ferns, and conifers, provided a steady and rich food source for herbivores. With ample food supply, some dinosaurs were able to grow to enormous sizes, as their size offered advantages in terms of accessing and consuming large quantities of plant material. In order to sustain their massive bodies, these sauropods developed several evolutionary traits that allowed them to thrive. One of the most important adaptations was their metabolic efficiency. Despite their enormous size, these creatures were able to maintain a high rate of growth and sustain themselves on relatively low-energy diets. This was possible because of their ability to efficiently process plant material, which often required large amounts of time to digest. The efficiency of their digestive systems allowed them to extract the maximum amount of nutrients from the plants they consumed, providing the energy needed to support their massive bodies. Their enormous size also had an impact on their physiology. The hearts of these giants had to be incredibly powerful to circulate blood throughout their long necks and massive bodies. In some cases, the hearts of these sauropods were estimated to be the size of a small car, and they had to pump blood over vast distances. The complexity of their circulatory systems was crucial for delivering oxygen and nutrients to every part of their body, especially given the vast distances between their heart and extremities. In some species, it is believed that the heart was located towards the front of the body, close to the head, to ensure that blood could travel upward with minimal resistance. In addition to their massive hearts, these dinosaurs also had specialized lungs that helped them extract as much oxygen as possible from the air. Their long, tubular bodies required efficient respiratory systems to fuel their metabolism and maintain their energy levels. This allowed these massive creatures to remain active, despite their size, and to continue feeding and growing. The combination of metabolic efficiency and the ability to extract oxygen from the atmosphere made these sauropods some of the most remarkable creatures ever to have lived. However, their massive size came with its own set of challenges. For one, it limited their mobility. While these creatures could travel across vast distances in search of food and water, they were not as agile as smaller dinosaurs. Their massive size also made them more vulnerable to environmental stresses, such as changes in climate or food availability. Despite these challenges, the benefits of size far outweighed the drawbacks. Their sheer scale provided them with a level of protection against predators. Few carnivores were capable of taking down such massive prey, which allowed the sauropods to roam largely unchallenged. One of the most iconic features of these giant dinosaurs was their long necks. These necks were not only used to reach high into the trees to access food, but they also provided a range of other advantages. By being able to reach food high above the ground, the sauropods could access resources that were unavailable to smaller herbivores. This allowed them to exploit niches in the ecosystem that others could not. Their necks also gave them the ability to survey the landscape, helping them to spot potential threats and locate food sources. Another advantage of their massive size was their ability to regulate body temperature. The large body mass of these dinosaurs allowed them to retain heat more effectively, enabling them to survive in a range of temperatures. This would have been especially important during the cooler seasons, when smaller creatures would have struggled to maintain their body heat. The combination of metabolic efficiency and size allowed these sauropods to survive in a variety of environments, from the lush forests to the open plains. These giants were not just a marvel of evolutionary design, but also an experiment in nature's boldest attempts at size and scale. The sheer size of these creatures pushed the boundaries of what was possible in terms of body structure and function. Their massive frames, long necks, and powerful hearts were the product of millions of years of evolution, shaped by environmental pressures and the availability of resources. They were, in many ways, the culmination of an evolutionary process that sought to push the limits of size and strength. However, as remarkable as these giant dinosaurs were, they were not without their limitations. Their sheer size made them slow-moving and vulnerable to environmental changes. It is believed that the climate shifts during the late Jurassic period may have contributed to the eventual decline of some of these massive species. As the climate cooled and forests began to shrink, these large herbivores may have found it more difficult to find the food they needed to sustain their massive bodies. Their size, which had once been an advantage, may have ultimately led to their downfall as resources became scarce. The rise of the Ultrasaurus, Diplodocus, and Camarasaurus represents one of the most extraordinary chapters in the history of life on Earth. These creatures were the result of a perfect storm of evolutionary pressures. Each one adapted to its environment in ways that allowed it to thrive on an unprecedented scale. Their size, metabolic efficiency, and specialized adaptations made them the rulers of their world, dominating the landscape in ways that few other creatures could. Despite the challenges they faced, the legacy of these giant dinosaurs endures in the fossil record, providing a glimpse into a time when life on Earth was larger, stranger, and more magnificent than anything we can imagine today. Their enormous size may have been nature's boldest experiment in scale, but it was an experiment that paid off, allowing these creatures to dominate the planet for millions of years before the rise of new ecological pressures led to their eventual extinction. The story of these giants is one of evolutionary triumph, a testament to the power of nature's ability to push the limits of what is possible and reshape the very course of life on Earth. As the Jurassic period drew to a close, the once thriving ecosystems that had supported the age of reptiles began to undergo dramatic changes. The world was shifting, slowly but inexorably, towards a new era. The landscape was not what it had been. The lush forests and swamps that had nurtured the great dinosaurs were now being reshaped by rising seas and cooling climates. These shifts in the environment, though gradual, would prove to be deadly for many of the creatures that had once dominated the planet. Extinction, as it always does, began to creep in, erasing entire species from existence. Sea levels had been rising steadily for millions of years, as the warming climate caused polar ice to melt and the Earth's tectonic plates shifted. Coastal habitats were submerged, and the great inland seas that had once covered much of the Earth's surface began to shrink. As land masses shifted and oceans expanded, many species found themselves unable to adapt to the changing environments. The forests where some of the greatest herbivores once roamed began to dwindle, and the once vibrant ecosystems that had supported the giant sauropods and powerful carnivores were now in flux. Those species unable to cope with the changing conditions saw their numbers dwindle, eventually leading to their extinction. At the same time, the climate itself was cooling. What had been a warm, tropical world was beginning to chill, slowly but steadily. Temperatures dropped, and the once steamy jungles of the Jurassic began to recede. replaced by cooler, drier conditions. This shift in temperature had profound effects on the flora and fauna that had flourished during the Jurassic. Many of the plant species that had been the staple diet of the giant herbivores became scarce as the climate cooled, and the types of plants that could survive in the new, harsher environment were not suitable for the enormous herbivores that had once roamed the land. For some species, the changing world was too much to bear. The herbivores that had grown to such enormous sizes now found themselves struggling to find enough food to sustain their massive bodies. The large carnivores, too, felt the pressure as their prey became increasingly scarce. The Jurassic was no longer a time of abundance, it was a time of survival. The dinosaurs that had once ruled the planet were now beginning to lose their dominance as the environmental shifts pushed them into decline. However, not all species were doomed to vanish. Some adapted to the changing conditions and began to evolve new traits that allowed them to survive in the new world that was emerging. Smaller, more agile dinosaurs, for example, found ways to thrive in the shifting climate. Some species of theropods evolved into bird-like creatures, developing feathers for insulation and even the ability to glide. These adaptations allowed them to cope with the cooler temperatures and more variable food sources. The evolution of birds, though still in its infancy, was beginning to take shape, setting the stage for the rise of the new rulers of the skies. Similarly, some of the larger dinosaurs, though still struggling to maintain their size, began to evolve adaptations that would help them cope with the changing environment. They developed new feeding strategies, perhaps shifting from browsing on tall trees to feeding on lower-lying plants, or even becoming more opportunistic feeders, scavenging from other species that had already perished. The ability to adapt to a changing world, though crucial, was not enough to save many species, and the end of the Jurassic was marked by the extinction of several iconic dinosaurs. The Jurassic finale was not just a story of decline, however. It was also a time of transformation, as new species began to rise in the wake of the dinosaurs' struggle for survival. The end of the Jurassic marked the beginning of the Cretaceous period, a new age in which new creatures would emerge to fill the ecological niches left by the extinction of others. The rise of the new rulers, particularly the early ancestors of the great marine reptiles, such as mosasaurs and plesiosaurs, as well as the first true flowering plants, would define the Cretaceous. It was a time of change, not just for the dinosaurs, but for all life on Earth. This transition from the Jurassic to the Cretaceous also marked the dawn of a new age of predation. The great predators of the Jurassic, such as Allosaurus and Ceratosaurus, would give way to the fearsome Tyrannosaurus rex and other apex predators of the Cretaceous. The landscape, once dominated by the long-necked giants and armored herbivores, would now be home to new creatures with different strategies for survival. The adaptation of life in the Cretaceous would take many forms, from the evolution of the first true mammals to the diversification of the flying reptiles that would dominate the skies. But the transition to the Cretaceous was not without its own set of challenges. Just as the dinosaurs had faced environmental pressures in the Jurassic, they would face even greater challenges in the coming era. Climate change, volcanic activity, and the eventual impact of a massive asteroid would all play pivotal roles in shaping the future of life on Earth. The Cretaceous would ultimately end with a catastrophic event, the most famous of which was the asteroid impact that wiped out the dinosaurs, ushering in a new era of life dominated by mammals and, eventually, humans. The end of the Jurassic period was, in many ways, a prelude to the drama and transformation that would follow in the Cretaceous. Extinction, though it claimed many of the great reptiles of the age, was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of a new chapter in the history of life on Earth. The Jurassic period may have ended, but its legacy shaped by the rise of dinosaurs, the evolution of flight, and the immense diversity of life would live on in the creatures that followed. The dinosaurs may have ruled the Earth for over 160 million years, but their legacy would continue to shape the world long after their extinction. The Jurassic finale, therefore, was not just a moment of loss, but also of transformation. The age of reptiles was drawing to a close, But the Earth was not done with them yet. The Cretaceous awaited, bringing with it new rulers and new challenges, and setting the stage for one of the most dramatic periods in the history of life on Earth. The rise of new species, the diversification of life, and the eventual impact of global extinction events would all shape the course of life, ensuring that the legacy of the Jurassic, the creatures that once ruled the planet, would never be forgotten.